Hello, hello, hello. Magic, I am here. And with that, there's light. Took me a few minutes. That's why I put up the lovely screen of Gandalf. I hope everyone's doing well wherever you are from. Sorry, I know this is a little later than I was going to do earlier. I did want to go into Natalie's stream because she has an informative stream about Alex testifying and whether or not she thought that was good or not. So I wanted to hear that for a little bit. But I appreciate you all, and we have some fun things to talk about with the jury. I think that's going to be the focus of this stream today. As always, please put your questions in the chat, Q or capital question mark, or like a red question mark or something like that, and I will see it. So we'll answer all the jury questions. We'll go over anything else, talk about other things that we want to go through, theories, whatnot. It is warm here in South Carolina. It is actually a very warm day. People are out wearing shorts and things like that. I went to the grocery and it was funny because there was a golf cart section, so people are riding around in their golf carts here. I feel bad for those of you that are suffering in the cold weather. Yes, I saw Natalie's stream ended a little bit ago, but today's March 4th, although the last day was technically March 3rd. And I think this stream is going to be dedicated to the juror that I named Rob Stark. And tell me that there's not a resemblance there. Am I wrong? At least somewhat. I'm doing well, by the way. Witness wants to know how I am doing. It's been a long 6 weeks, but I am slowly getting my rest back and my eating schedule back. So I know it's not exactly, but he had a much thicker beard when we first started. So my notes, he had a full beard, and that's why I call him Rob Stark Jr. because he's like a smaller, younger version. And I had nicknames for all of them, as you'll see right here. It's just based on general characteristics, which I think were funny. But I see some fun places in the chat. Yeah, if anyone wants to put where you're from, where you're listening from, I am here in South Carolina still. I am here in Hilton Head area, outside of it, Bluffton area-ish. Not to give exactly where I'm staying because don't want to tell anyone, but no, I'm joking. Don't want the Murdaughs to come for me. But no, it's actually quite warm here. I'm about an hour from Walterboro right now. France, that's pretty cool. South Carolina as well, that's awesome. Arizona, Scotland. I'm actually part Scottish. Robertson clan. Thank you very much, Darrell, for the super chat. I see a lot of cold places, so I feel for you all as well. I hopefully will be going back to Florida soon. I see two people from France, which is cool. We actually had a media person during the trial who was from Paris. He was with, I think, Vanity Fair, France, and he's writing a book about the trial. So that was pretty cool. He was actually very nice. Hey, we have Larry, the DUI guy in the chat, who is from Kentucky. I am glad to see that you survived the volcano. I myself am also a Kentuckian of sorts. So I live in Florida now. I'm from all over, y'all. I live in Florida now. I went to school in Kentucky. My parents live up north. and I've lived probably in 5 or 6 different states. So, tornado, not volcano. Did that sound tornado, there was a tornado in Kentucky. I didn't say volcano. I think I just sound anyway, y'all wanna know, here are the jurors that attended the trial because 'cause I've seen questions before. So, we have glasses, the guy that I called Kadyrov, sunglasses, Velma, Queen Latifah, Ray Romano's dad, Rob Stark, who is James, and he is the one that spoke to Fox News, Blank Face, who I'll show you, and I'm sorry, but he just had such a great poker face, and that's why I called him Blank Face, and he is the one that spoke to Good Morning America, whose name is Craig, Whitehair, who was the forewoman, and she was the one that looked I guess people say she looked like Maggie. She was basically probably very similar age to Maggie. Tracy wants to know, will the jurors do a group sit-down interview? A big news station? I don't know, maybe. I mean, 2 of them already sat down. I don't know, maybe they'll all write a book. And then we have the juror named Red who just had red hair, so that's why I named her that. Amber, volcano tornado after 6 weeks. I'm surprised James knows his own name. It was exhausting to watch from afar. Yeah, I guess I did say volcano. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said volcano. Oh gosh, y'all. It has been. I did get a good amount of sleep last night, but it still's been 6 weeks. Grumpy Cat wants to know what the difference between glasses and sunglasses. Glasses was wearing glasses and sunglasses, sunglasses. No, that's partly a joke, but also no. So one of them did. He'd always have sunglasses, not on, but backwards on his head. And just every day in court, no matter what, he was wearing sunglasses all day. And then glasses was just, it was the only, he was the only guy on the jury pool that was wearing glasses. He also wore a mask. I could have called him Mask Man, so maybe that's it, Mask Man, because he wore a mask the whole time, and then Mask Lady wore a mask the whole time. Mary or Marie. Yes, Blankface was the one who did the 2020 episode. Or no, yes, he also did that as well. I think he did too, I guess, right? Ems wants to know who had blankets on the jury. So not depicted here. I'll get to that slide in a second because Blanket Lady had a blanket. Who of these ones? Mm, Queen Latifah didn't really have a blanket. She would have a jacket that she'd cover herself with. Velma sometimes did have a blanket, excuse me. And then none of the other ones. The only ones who had blankets were Blanket Lady, Velma, and I think the one of them who left in the beginning. There was a younger girl who left. Jarrell wants to know what juror also did an interview besides Blankface. The one that I called Rob Stark Jr., but his name is James. Jordan says that Craig was strange to me. It's an interesting observation. I actually haven't listened. I read the article and I'll have it here. We go through it, but I haven't listened to him. I will say he had a great poker face. I really didn't think he showed a lot of emotion until the very end, but he had a really blank expression most of the time, especially during, some very key events that happened, like evidence, but also a very blank expression during Alex's testimony as well. So maybe that should have been a sign. Joe Doris wants to know if it's true that one juror fell asleep during the trial. Yes, I mean, two of them fell asleep. Well, three of them. One of them, the younger girl, she was probably between 18 and 25 or something, maybe even just 18 or 19. She left early on because of I think she had an emergency room issue or she had the COVID issue, but she would fall asleep here and there, but, just very briefly. A blanket lady would close her eyes for, 30 seconds here and there, and then mask lady who didn't show up, but she always wore a mask from day 1, and she also would close her eyes at points. It was never for longer than maybe a minute or so, but it was they did, close their eyes and partly fall asleep. Christy says, "James, I saw you on 2020." I don't think was I on 2020? Did they show me in the live stream or something like that? I'll have to see it. That would be cool. Grumpy Cat says, "Blank face is a good description. Thank you." Turkey Leg, which 3 jurors do you think were not guilty at first? That is really difficult. I don't know. I'm gonna find out because I can talk to some of them, I think, and I'll get to that later, and hopefully I will get a chance to talk to them, but honestly, because I've been kind of wrong about their expressions. Well, not wrong, but I just thought, some of them had a poker face. I really thought it was gonna be a hung jury, that's the issue, and I guess it could have been if 3 of them were not convinced otherwise, and maybe they were people that just went along with the group because they decided, "Listen, it's not worth arguing for a week and having a hung jury. I wanna go home, I wanna go back to my family. I want to sit, and watch, Netflix and not have to be at a trial all day listening to the technical details about turning a phone over and the software behind it. So I don't know. I don't know who to say. If I could guess, I mean, well, I know it's not Rob Stark Jr., who's James. I know it's not Blankface Craig. I don't think it's white hair. I don't think it's the forewoman. It's definitely not Queen Latifah. It's definitely not Kadriov because he was, excuse me, sitting behind me and he was pretty vocal about it. It could have been hmm, it could have been sunglasses. It could have been Ray Romano's dad, maybe. It could have been no, it definitely wasn't Mask Lady. Hmm, I don't know. I mean, yikes, that's hard. I don't know. Lulu says she thinks it's, sunglasses and red. Yeah, that's that's a good guess, honestly. Christy says they had several clips last night on 2020, and I was plainly in the background. Get an agent. I have to clip that. I'll post it on Twitter. That's awesome. Thank you. Bot Goblin wants to know Red. Maybe Red is one of them. And if you're wondering who Red is one of the jurors who I named just because she has red hair. Someone asked about the racial background of the jury on the actual jury pool, not alternates. It was 2 black women and the rest were white. There were 1, 2, 3, 4 white women. Well, there was 5, and then Smiley had to leave with the dozen eggs. So then there were 4. Yes. Ray says, "You weren't wrong about it being a hung jury at first. You just underestimated how quickly they could be convinced." That's true. Thank you. Thank you for uh, reaffirming that I'm always right. Just it was a little different. So yeah, final racial makeup was 2 black individuals and 10 white individuals. Very true. Ashley R says she missed the egg thing. What happened? So, yes, when the jury pool, well, not, excuse me, when one jury member was dismissed because of issues outside of court, what happened is first, there was a Facebook post by her ex-husband online that mentioned that she was on the jury and things like that. It was removed and apparently it wasn't an issue. But what was an issue is that she was speaking to her friends about the case and about evidence. And apparently she did not think he was guilty. And there was an investigation by the court, and the people had said that to them, so they let her go. And what happened was the judge asked her after he called her in and let her know that she was going to be leaving. He asked her if she had things, where they were. She said she left them in the room. He asked her what she had, and she said she had a dozen eggs in there. So the judge kind of made a joke about it. And the courtroom, I mean, it was funny. It erupted in laughter, and she laughed too. I mean, I think I don't know if she was upset. She was smiling because the judge made a point to say, "You've been very nice. You've smiled at everyone this whole time, so, we're sorry to let you go, but, because of the circumstances, we have to." And she understood, but it was funny that she brought a dozen eggs to court. Apparently, she had to bring the eggs for someone else, though. I don't know. Not sure. Laura Cox, I very much appreciate the super chat and the question. This is a very loaded question. Do I think that Alec killed his wife and son? Also, do you think the jury had their minds already made up before deliberating? Yikes. Okay, let me get to this in a minute. But thank you. I wanted to acknowledge this first. I'm starring this. Jill Downey, James the juror. James said they went and took a vote about the case and evidence, then took another vote, and all voted guilty. It didn't sound like anyone was a holdout or needed much persuasion. Yes, possibly. And again, maybe it's just they wanted to go home. And they didn't wanna argue with everyone all night, and then the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So so let's now go to the jurors that did not attend. So the jurors that didn't show up for sentencing were Mask Lady, the guy that I call Big Beard, who was the alternate that replaced Smiley, or the lady who brought a dozen eggs, and then neither of the alternates came. So Blanket and Tissue Lady did not come to the sentencing. Wilmington Stuff says that I haven't lived in the country. A juror has chickens and brought everyone a dozen. That's how someone with 20 chickens uses the eggs if they don't sell them. That's awesome. I hope that's true. I hope everyone on the jury pool got a dozen eggs. I hope so. I very much hope so. So let's start. I want to read the article from the juror. The juror. Sorry, I'm going to have an issue with saying that. The juror James, who is Rob Stark Jr., but his name is James, and here he is right here. I see it. Especially he had a much thicker beard in the beginning. Very much, much thicker. He shaved it halfway through the trial, or a week into the trial, maybe 2 weeks into the trial. Let's read some snippets right now. We prayed together. We prayed before we went in. We prayed before we came out to give the verdict, said James, who was known as juror number 530 during the 6-week Walterboro, South Carolina trial. That was a huge factor in us being able to sit comfortably with our decision. They calmly discussed the evidence, going through everyone's questions, then took another vote, which was unanimous. We were all pretty sure we knew what had happened, and we knew that we had pulled the trigger, he told Fox News Digital, wearing a Constitution motif. Now, I highlighted the Constitution motif because he wore that tie multiple times, and I think that's hilarious and awesome. One, that he was wearing, the Constitution tie, I think that's really cool, and, he also dressed up every day, so it was obviously special to him. I think he wore his father's tie, I'm pretty sure that was his father's tie, so Izzy Mariel says, "James the juror is the brother of one of the witnesses." I highly doubt that. I have to look into that. Maybe if that's reported somewhere, call me out on it, but I'm pretty sure that that cannot be true. I do not believe that a brother of a witness would be allowed to be in the trial, but I didn't read that in the report either. Tell me if I'm wrong, chat. But moving on, I think it's incredible timing on Paul's part. James said, "I don't think that anyone would have ever known that he was down there if it wasn't for that video. I think that there's a lot of evidence that points towards Alex, but I feel that does solidify it." So I mean, I agree, and to be honest, this is kind of what I saw in the jury. I think that video had a huge impact on the jury in that moment. I mean, there was the juror that left. She wasn't in the final pool or the final group, but she made a huge face when that video came out, and then I think it was Creighton Waters who said, to the witness, "Do you really know Alex?" And she was like, "Whoa." It was like one of the emojis, like the face bomb emoji, and then Queen Latifah also made a huge response to that. So, to be honest, I always had a feeling James was gonna be guilty. I always thought that, well, Rob Stark Jr., I wanna be true to my name of him. He'll always be Rob Stark Jr. in my notebook, but I think I think I was right about him, but oops, sorry about that. That is my phone. But moving on, I think if Murdaugh is looking at Paul and he's just shot a buckshot, which if you're not firm, it can rock you pretty good. I think he could have been unbalanced, and I think he could have tripped over the threshold, and that puts him on the ground shooting up, James said. I think that makes sense to me for the angle of the shot. I don't think I'd ever be able to answer why somebody would do something like that, he said. But I know that there are people in the world that don't make sense, and they do things without making it make sense. So I don't think that there's an answer other than that it happened and that it shouldn't have. Wow. So I think that this is very interesting coming from someone on the jury. One, because it kind of solidifies my idea or thought that, and a lot of people have this thought that multiple people on the juror, on the, on multiple jurors would have an extensive or at least intermediate knowledge of weapons and firearms. And obviously that's displayed here because he knows about buckshot. He knows what a reaction would be. He knows, how your body reacts to that energy from using that firearm. And he knows the type of angles that someone would have to be in to carry out that shot. So he definitely knows about firearms. I think there were multiple people on that jury pool who had firearms. I would say. And he was definitely at least 3 or 4 because, well, I mean, 1, I think in this area, from what I've heard, everyone does, but also just from looking at them, I would assume that that was the case. So, I also think it's interesting that he talked about the motive here because It's kind of what I say too. I mean, listen, I sympathize with people who have all sorts of opinions about this verdict, and we'll get there. I'll try to do a poll either in here or on Twitter for, the ultimate verdict. And I know that there's a range of opinions online, but I've seen certain people who say that he was a family man. Why would he do something like this? It doesn't make sense. The motive doesn't make sense. And while I agree that the financial motives definitely don't necessarily make sense, I think that James says it really well here when he points out that there are people in the world that don't make sense and they do things without making it make sense. And I like to use the example of Chris Watts, who, for anyone looking on the outside in, had a picture perfect life, a wife, 2 young daughters, and look what happened to him in that horror. So it doesn't make sense. It's not always going to make sense. The jury obviously felt a different way, and we'll get to all of that later, but I just think it's interesting that he added this part to it because it shows that the jurors really are people. And yes, they look at evidence and they need to look at if there's enough evidence to substantiate a certain claim by the prosecution. However, they're also human beings with common sense and critical thinking skills, and they use their knowledge as living, breathing human beings, and they take into account their lived experiences and other trials that they know about and other crimes that they've known about. So it doesn't always have to make sense. Not all crime makes sense. A lot of people do horrible things that don't make sense. You don't have to explain a specific reason that Alex Murdaugh needed a rational, or I mean, nothing, murder I don't think is ever rational, but it's as if they wanted to, create some sort of rational reason why he would do it. But sometimes there is no rational reason. Sometimes people just snap. Sometimes people think that they're going to get away with it. Sometimes people think that they can have a different life because they're in psychosis or different things like that. So it's hard to understand, why people do horrible things. Oh, yes. And then we have Craig, or Blank Face. So he is the second juror that came out and spoke. He spoke on Good Morning America, and I think 2020, you all said, right? And I am saving questions here as well. I see them in the chat. I'll try to get to them maybe in a little bit and then at the end as well. Craig was very hard to read. I mean, I only call him Blank Face because he really did have, I mean, this pretty much was his expression the entire trial. If I could be honest with you all, this picture right here sums up his expression the entire trial. So I thought that was funny. I'm kind of shocked that he came out so for the prosecution, to be honest. Just real quick, I see this from Danielle. Oop, well, he's my favorite. Oh, cool. That's awesome. He's your favorite. But I also, from Synth, Synesthesa, are you streaming? So can you show a picture of a jury again? Yeah, I can add that into the slide, maybe. The picture I took. Well, you mean the picture from streaming that I took yesterday? Let me see if I can get that. There's also a video from Twitter that I might show if y'all want me to show it of the jury walking out. of the courthouse. I can show that if y'all want to see. But yes, he had a heck of a poker face. And while I do that, I'll read some of his quotes from the article. About 45 minutes later, all of our deliberating, we figured it out. The evidence was clear that he was guilty. I don't know if to say it, Moyer was unmoved by Murdaugh's emotional testimony, during which he broke down several times when discussing the murders. I didn't think much of him, Moyer scoffed. All he did was blow snot. There were no tears. I saw his eyes. I didn't see any true remorse or compassion or anything. Murdaugh was notably emotionless when the damning verdict was read. His surviving son Buster was also quiet, but held his head in his hands. All that's true. He was notably emotionless when the verdict was read, and Buster did hold his head in his hands. Now, I think it's interesting that they had this perspective because I had pretty much said that I didn't think that the jury reacted to Alex's testimony in the way that people needed to. I know, well, not people, but the defense. I know that people online had seen the testimony and were quite moved and felt for him. And it did feel like he was upset, and I think he was upset that he was being held for this. And, some people we see in interrogation videos when they're finally held to the truth and their lies, come crumbling down, that's when they break down and cry and relive the experience and everything like that. And that could be a part of it. I do believe him when he says that he wasn't really crying and blowing snot because one, Alec is known to put on shows during trial. I mean, people have said that behind the scenes. People who weren't even in the trial have spoken to me about that. But also, just being there, it didn't feel authentic sadness for them, for Maggie and Paul, if that makes any sense. It just didn't feel like that. Not when he was testifying. Other times, yes, when he was sitting there and crying during the you know, testimony of certain doctors in the crime scene, but that could have just been his sadness for reliving that experience and the horror of it as well. I think he was also, if I could say catatonic at times, is what I felt like. So it's possible that, I mean, he was just so upset about being involved in this process. I don't know. And yeah, Danielle, the juror confirmed my reporting over the mainstream media. I was his, I was this close to him, when reporter questioned him about Alex crying. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of the mainstream they didn't go along with that, and a lot of people didn't want to see that, which is fine. And a lot of people, I think for some reason, and I'll say this, a lot of the mainstream media in California, in Carolina, South Carolina, seem to treat him very well for some reason. I don't know if they just wanted to find him innocent or things like that. And I understand everyone online and many of you in the chat who probably don't feel like there's enough evidence, and that's definitely fine. And you're welcome to have that opinion. But I'm talking about specific observations and things like this, which were misrepresented by the media, just kind of shocked me because what interest did they have in promoting Alex publicity and making him seem like he was received by the jury in a way that he wasn't? So, just very odd. Miss Wee Lassie says, I think any tears he shed were for himself. However, the tears he did spill were as fake as his character. I agree with the first part, and I agree mostly for the second part, but I agree that the tears he shed were for himself, for sure. Next slide. Moyer said that Murdaugh's voice in the background of a Snapchat video Paul took just moments before he was killed was the key exhibit that convinced him of the once prominent lawyer's guilt. You can hear his voice clearly, Moyer said, though he added that he was very surprised when Murdaugh reversed over a year of lies and admitted on the stand that being at the kennels just before the shots rang out. Moyer also told Pilgrim that the jury did not buy the defense's argument that Murdaugh did not have enough time to kill Maggie and Paul, clean up or stage the scene, visit his ailing mother, and return within little over an hour when he finally called the police. I think there's just enough time for him to do that, he insisted. So this is also an interesting point by this juror because I think the Snapchat video was a huge part of the jurors' decision, and obviously Craig says it here, and so did James, and I saw that in that moment, and I said that at the time. I said those videos are huge, and I think if you all remember, I was in actually Natalie's stream, right? And I was so excited for her to see the end of that because I said, "This is a huge deal. This is what I think changed a lot of the jurors' minds because he had been lying. The defense even set it up in the beginning. He was ready to go throughout the trial pretending like he was never at the kennels. That would have just been fine for him until it came out that he was actually there. And once he was caught in that lie, he had to reverse it and he had to make up a reason as to why he was there. And I think that had a huge impact on the jurors as well. It all tied together. I want to know what you all agree with, what you all think about that, if you agree with me and everything like that. Yeah, that's how I feel for sure. And I understand everyone's opinions on this, but I'm just reading the jurors. Hmm. But again, so this was the juror known as Blank Face. He went on two separate news stations, as far as I know. And real quick, let me get to some questions and super chats, and then we can move on with other questions that you all have or any specific topics that I can just talk about. Deb Little, thank you very much for the super chat. It seemed Maggie and Paul were forgotten at times, and that was hard to witness. Alex was so focused on himself during his testimony. The financial testimony took away from the victims. Do you feel that way being there? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I feel bad. I feel like this, of course, became a trial within a trial. I do feel like ultimately, though, the reason it had to be so much more than Maggie and Paul was that in order to really get justice for them, there had to be a lot of other stuff brought in. And I won't say that the prosecution didn't play a little dirty at times, but listen, this is a man whose family has been running a town for 100 years, who have played dirty, who have bullied people, who have maneuvered the legal system, and Judge Newman is absolutely right, who have put people on death row for far less than what Alex has done. So, this is sometimes how legal maneuvering has to work. It may not have been the best practices. Some of y'all might not agree with it, but that's how it is. And at the end of the day, I think the jury felt like even though there may not have been the exact evidence that you or I may have wanted to see, there was enough, and they felt like by seeing him, only 3 feet away from them, reading him, they were able to make that decision. Vicky, thank you for the super chat for the camera fund, and you're welcome for covering this. Polly Popcorn, also, thank you very much. Uh, Laura Cox, I did not forget about you. T. Marie wants to know if I or the gallery was shocked at no victim or defendant statements. I was, actually. I was shocked. Not that there were no victim statements for Maggie, but that Alex didn't do any, that no family made any statement for him. Listen, I know that defense said it wouldn't have made a difference for the sentence, but I think it could have made a difference for the public opinion. I think it could have made a difference for a number of things. And possibly, I mean, I don't know, possibly maybe for one of the other charges or something. I think it's always a little beneficial, and I think it's weird that he didn't say anything more as well. I mean, he didn't make any statement. So, Brittany, question: the jurors that have come out, what are their nicknames? I can go back real quick if you all want to see. So, Rob Stark Jr. and Blankface are the ones that spoke to news already. Cass the Sass, can you tell us what part of the trial seemed the most surprising to the courtroom and or jury? I would say the Snapchat videos, absolutely. Snapchat videos, Alex's testimony, Maggie's testimony, the whole Blanca thing, and Gloria, Michelle, all of that. Catherine, what is my opinion on Buster? Do I think he's next? I don't know about that actually. I've heard mixed rumors, to be honest. Tracy wants to know my nickname for the dismissed juror was I called her originally Blondie because she was the only blonde juror, and then Smiley because she was the one that smiled at everyone, and I guess now dozen eggs. Now we know her as the egg juror, Easter egg maybe. Should we call her Easter egg? The dozen eggs. That was funny. Olga wants to know if I'm in South Carolina still. I am in South Carolina still. Sunny, warm South Carolina. Uh, Marina Girl wants to know why Randy wasn't there the last 2 to 3 days. I don't know, actually. I don't know why he was not at sentencing. John Marvin was not there a lot of the last few days as well as the other extended families that had showed up for Buster's testimony and for John Marvin's testimony. So that was kind of interesting if you think about it. I did meet Judge Newman, and he was very nice. He just gave a quick interview to Inside Edition, which I watched, and I can actually get the photo up for you all. Let me do that because that would be cool. Kathy at Oz wants to know which juror remained the last alternate. So, the last alternate was Blanket and Tissue Lady. And if you all will remember, she was the one, of course, with the tissues, but at the very end, she was let go, and the judge brought her in and asked her if she wanted to sit or stand, and she said no, that she just wanted to stand. And then he let her get her things and leave, and she did not show up to sentencing or anything else. She was over the trial. I don't think she even wanted to be there from the beginning, to be honest. So, yeah. Ike, do you remember that SLED officer admit on the stand that he lied to the grand jury? I can't get past that. Yeah, that's not good. And that's why SLED has some issues for sure. And I think that is a huge part of this investigation and this trial as well. Tracy, who was the juror that rubbed eyebrows and put face in hands, that was Kadyrov. And Grumpy Cat wants to know if Kadyrov wore glasses and had a beard. Wore he had a beard. He did not wear glasses. Big Beard had a glasses and a beard. Why was Big Beard there? I didn't see a guy with glasses and beard in the video, and I don't think he sat behind me. John Marvin didn't come at the end of sentencing, yes, but he wasn't in the days before that. He didn't come in as much. Danielle wants to know, have I heard anything about how the jurors took the trip to Moselle? It reported that it did help the trip to Moselle. It did help with their decision. That's what they reported to the news. And just real quick, y'all. And I see again popcorn power. I'm going to answer this question because someone asked me in a super chat, and I definitely will. Thank you very much, Jarrell, for the super chat, Hillbilly Mafia. Yeah, right? Is that a good book name, maybe? Or is that already a book name? Is it a movie? Question from Gumpy Cat. Do you know when the trial for the financial crimes is scheduled, or will there be a plea deal? I don't know at this point. There very well could be. I know that there's over 99 of them, right? But I think they'll start soon. And Creighton Waters, we know, is covering them, and the judge is covering them as well. Crystal DeSaro question: are you aware of any Alex's cases slash convictions being looked into? That would be a good question. Did he exploit his powers as a lawyer? Did he work with SLED? Did he abuse the legal system in any way? I mean, we saw him lie and use the legal system and his powers of influence with SLED to benefit himself. So it wouldn't be that out of bounds to suggest that, he would do it in his own cases. I wonder. But I'm sure he had people, probably multiple people working on his cases. I know he was able to get away with funneling money from the law firm, well, his accounts to the law firm, but the law firm to, private accounts of his. I don't know if he would have been able to get away with manipulating cases in the same kind of way, just because there are teams of attorneys and there's paralegals and all sorts of things and people who were working on it. I mean, apparently his law firm was quite I mean, the other people, I guess, are, respected and things like that, so I don't know if they would have let that slide as much as they let the financial indiscretion slide. I already answered that. Sorry. Hello from the Netherlands. I'm just pinning some more questions to answer, and I will get to some of the harder questions as well. Ken Boone wants to know which of the jurors wore masks. So it was Queen Latifah wore a mask most of the time up until the end, and she started to wear one after the whole COVID debacle. Mask Lady wore a mask the whole time, and so did the guy that I've named Glasses. So really just 2 of them wore masks the whole time, and then 3 of them wore it, here and there. Angie, wants to know about the alternate, and yes, the alternate who was let go after Egg Lady, she was let go because they didn't need her. Question from Reverend Kim Love, was anyone from the boat case there? Yes. Mallory Beach's family was there. Her parents and the lawyer, and I think some other people were there as well. But when they had walked out, a bunch of media approached them. They spoke to the media. Mallory Beach's father said that he thanked the media and appreciated their diligence with this case and keeping it in the light, and holding them accountable. So they were there. Linda, do I know the ages of Paul and Buster? Now I don't. I know Paul was like 22 and this happened. That was what, 3 years ago? So maybe 25. Buster is a little bit older. So, Laura J, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much for your alternate personal approach to cover the trial. Appreciate that. Heck yeah. Buster, I guess, is 26 maybe. Hey, Bree. Thank you. It's good to see you here. Yeah, if you want, I can send you a link or something if you want to talk about this or have any questions. If anyone else has any questions, let me get to more information about the jurors, maybe about my conversations with them. Or I guess I probably should answer this question that I said I would answer, but Grace and Grit, you might have already answered, but I recently joined. But I saw a report that Moselle property was staged before the jury visit, like the bike and Buster power flower pot. Yeah, I did not answer this on this stream. I spoke to some of the other media people, and we felt like that was staged. Some people felt like it was staged as just kind of a troll. I wonder if it was staged in order to make the jury more sympathetic, possibly. Because, I mean, they put a kid's bike out there or a bike or whatever, that makes it look very family. They also put a chicken in the kennel. That also just seems very, we know that Buster had the chicken in his mouth. That makes it just gives me a weird vibe, kind of a very weird vibe. But what do you all think about that? Was it staged? I mean, it is under, I think, the family still. So it's definitely possible that they did that before. Musical Neptunian wants to know if the bomb threat. Oh shoot, I shouldn't have said that. If if whatever happened, that thing that happened early on, was investigated. It was, and I believe it was kids or something like that. I also saw the fake post on TikTok about Alex Murdaugh. There is someone claiming to be him from jail, and there's people on TikTok interacting with it and saying they feel bad. It's obviously not Alex Murdaugh, so I just think that that's kind of funny. Ange Maj says EDB said that there was Maggie's bike and that she would ride it to the kennel sometimes. Chicken looked brand new. It was all staged, in my opinion. That's exactly how I feel. 100%. I feel like it, I mean, I guess it really wouldn't make any difference to the jury at that point, but I don't know. I think at this point, they're trying anything. Yeah, Lori, WTF with the chicken. But Bubba, we definitely need a Bubba appreciation post. I should have put Bubba in here. So I will tell you all, during sentencing, I sat right in front of Kadyrov, Glasses, Ray Romano's dad, and Blank Face, like right in front of them. And I did speak to them a little bit. As I said in my tweet, they had said that they came to sentencing pretty much because this trial has been such a big part of their lives for the past 5 weeks that they wanted to see it through. They also said that, they always felt like eyes were up there on them the entire time. I joked that they were the most famous people in South Carolina, if not the country right now, and that everyone was trying to watch them. And they said, yeah, well, everyone's been watching us for a while. But they also said that they really needed a break after this, because we asked them, "Are you ready to go back to work?" And we're just, I bet you're ready to get out of here because you had to take work off and do all these things. And they said, well, we need a break after this. So I definitely understand. I think it was hard for them. I think it was exhausting. I also apologized because I know I told you all that some of the jurors had complained about me, and they just complained because I think they saw me watching them, and at that time, I was sitting in the front section, and really just behind the Murdaugh family, so it's possible they thought I was maybe part of the Murdaugh family and just, or not part of their family, but part of the defense or something like that, like a watcher, and just watching them and made them uncomfortable, so they said something on a break, and then the clerk of court actually came over to me and had said, "The judge is watching you, so just be a little careful when you're watching the jury." And I had apologized to them yesterday and said, "I'm sorry if it seems like I was watching you," and they kind of laughed, but it was cool sitting in front of them. I'm not gonna lie, because I had been watching them for so long, and then to see them up close and have them sit right behind me, I mean, I it was kinda surreal, and I know that they noticed me. I know because I've locked eyes with them many times, and I was there. I mean, there were a couple days where I took off, but I was there pretty much every single day the entire trial. So, yeah, Christy James was like, "I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I really was watching you." Absolutely. And that's why the clerk of court, she knew what I was doing was totally fine. And I talked to Chanley about this, and we joked about this. Chanley, of course, is Chanley Shaw Painter from Court TV, who is also a court watcher, court correspondent for Court TV. And she knows exactly what it's like because she does the same thing and she watches the jury. So when I told her that happened, she laughed and stuff. So, yes, boss attorney Bree, I have to be more sneaky with my observations. I definitely do. But after that, I'm not going to lie, y'all. I kind of got petty. So when the jury would come out, if if any of them like looked at me while they walked out to the jury stand, and if we made eye contact, I would roll my eyes at them and then look away. Just because I was so annoyed thinking back, yeah, it's really petty, but I'm not gonna lie, I think, um I think it was funny, and I'm happy I did it because they were obnoxious for saying something to the judge. And we're all in a camp court together, so tell me if you all think that's funny, right? Yeah, I know. Like, I can't help myself sometimes, but what are you gonna do, y'all? Let's, answer some questions. Shoot, I know I have this super chat from you, Laura. If I think he did it, I'll get to that. I got to think about how I want to answer that, but I'm saving that. Susiana says you were a co-star on 2020 last night. I suppose I was. I have to find that, and I'll post that on Twitter. If anyone wants to share me the link of me on 2020, that would be awesome. Queen Net. Truth is, when you surround yourself around corrupt individuals, they may turn on you. Per Maggie and Paul, absolutely. We've seen that in many other situations as well. Alleged defendant question. I heard Alex used other inmates' phone accounts and other shenanigans while in jail so he wouldn't be recorded. Are people talking about that? Is it true? I did hear that he ran the jailhouse kind of in a way where he had some contraband things. I don't know entirely about that, so I can't say for certain, to be honest. Danielle wants to know what it was like in the courtroom during Jim Griffin's closing, if I remember. I mean, it was normal in the courtroom. It was boring at times, so I'll tell you the jury got lost, especially during the moments where we rehashed the evidence of the PowerPoint slides where it showed the phone, I guess, basically being turned in landscape and vertical or whichever the other way is called. And yeah, they were bored during that moments for sure. And yes, I'm a professional and I'm here to for professionally also petty. Yes, 100%. Susanna says I was shown throughout 2020. I will definitely watch. I just had a sip of water, and that's y'all's reminder to have some water and to smash that like button, please. Law Nerd Amber is asking, would you go to the Courtney Clenny trial if she doesn't plea out? I think she'd be one to take the stand and sink herself too. Interesting. I don't know. Is this one of the OnlyFans girls or something else? That did she kill like her boyfriend or something? I don't know who this is. Is this the Miami girl? Interesting. Yeah, I'll look into that for sure. Laura Cox, you sent another one? I don't see the other one. Hold on. You with your take on the whole thing? Hmm. I might have it saved. Okay. Yeah, I want the link for 2022. Oh, hold on. All right. Sorry, y'all. I just sneezed. This pollen here is crazy. Oof. Melalogic. Did the jury react when Jim Griffin gave the visualization that Alex could have driven the golf cart, but naked to get back to the house? No, they didn't like that comment. I actually wrote that down specifically because the audience laughed at that comment, but none of the jurors did. They didn't really like humor added in like that. They liked wholesome moments and laughter that they could relate to, like, oh, the dog did this, or he was a good dog, or, oh, this town is small and things like that, but not not stuff like that. Amanda Snyder, did you hear anything, or do you think Blanca got immunity for her testimony for her involvement with the fake Forge account? Oof. Possibly. I mean, I don't know why, because she deposited the checks. I mean, maybe that they held that over her head and said you have to testify. Yeah, it's possible. Mike W. James, I don't know if you have time, but would love for you to cover. You didn't say love, but I added that. But would you cover the Sarah Boone suitcase murder trial? Yeah, maybe. I will cover all the trials other people I think are covering too. So if there's interest in the trials on live streams and with the other attorneys and things like that, then I'll cover them. And also what you all want as well. If I hear enough interest from y'all. Deidre Simmons, James, will you put up your pic with the judge? I want my granddaughter to see it. All right. Yeah, this was what, 2 minutes ago? Sorry. Okay. Let me get it real quick. See if I can talk and do multiple things at the same time. I'll just talk about the judge because he was very nice and his wife was there. I saw her as well outside of the courtroom. She was talking to one of their clerks who sits behind the judge, and she's really good. She makes some very funny facial expressions. She's done that a lot, especially like when the attorneys were messing up or taking too long, she would make faces at them, which I thought was very funny. But she was out there with them, and what I heard from one of the staff members at the court is that, well, to preface this, you all know that the judge lost his son only a few weeks or maybe few months before the trial. So I'm guessing that that's why his wife came to court, because she was there every single day. And also, she had recently retired. So I think it was just a way for them to spend time together and for him to see her and things like that, and for her to see him. She was there watching him. She sat on the side. You wouldn't have seen her, I don't think, in the cameras, but she sat where like the court TV producer sat, opposite of the jury, on the opposite side of the judge from the jury. And I know that I had said previously that I believed that the judge had us all get up every so often because the jurors were falling asleep and things like that. Well, apparently, it was actually the judge's wife who was falling asleep. So that is why he had us all stand up at times, which I think is funny and kind of sweet. So let me know what you think about that. But I put up a picture per your request, Miss Deidre Simmons, and here's a picture of me and Judge Newman after court sentencing the last day of the Alex Murdaugh trial. Reverend Kim Love, do you think Alex Snap were intended to commit the crime to end problems around financial crimes and boat case? I don't know. I That is really hard. I think he might have been a state of psychosis. I think he might have believed that that would have made his life better. Maybe he was setting up a self-termination attempt by Paul, and then Maggie, was there and he didn't think Maggie was there. Maybe he thought Maggie was had already left in sort of a pill-induced psychosis. I don't know, actually. I really don't. I wonder if one day he'll ever tell the real story. Maggie Clendenin. Hi, James. I'm curious how the community, friends, neighbors feel about the Murdaughs, especially Alex and Buster. So yes, you're wondering how they feel about Alex and Buster. I mean, they don't like the Murdaughs, a lot of them. I'll say that. They feel very slighted by the Murdaugh family. They feel like the Murdaugh family has gotten away with many things. I'll say that I spoke to multiple people. One story I've shared before, but I can share it again, is that there was a school teacher and she had recently moved to the town when she started in the county. I guess this was Hampton County, probably, wherever the Murdaughs were from. She did so well that the school started outperforming, and the state came in and acknowledged her and the school for how well they were doing. Well, naturally, she wanted to advance her career and make more money. She told me she could have went to another county and gotten paid more. However, when she started to tell people, some of her colleagues, they informed her that if she left, she wouldn't have a job. She wouldn't be able to get hired anywhere. And that's because Alex's mother, I believe, grandmother, no, I think it was his mother, was head of the school board, and she did not want that teacher to leave because that would reduce the ranking of the school. If that teacher, that was the teacher that increased so many numbers for that county and that school in particular. So that's the kind of behavior that a lot of the people that are surrounding them in the community have had to deal with. And I think that they finally want justice to come for the Murdaughs. I have talked to a lot of people who know of them from different parts of the state, people who are connected to that community, and a lot of people do believe that he did it, or at least was partly involved, if he didn't do it completely himself. So either way, he's guilty in a sense, is what a lot of people believe. How they feel about Buster, I don't know as much. I think a lot of people feel that he's entitled and that a lot of people in the family are. But what do you all think watching? If there are people here in South Carolina, are there people here in the chat that know the family or know about them? I want to hear what you have to say. So put it in the chat if you have thoughts about that too. James, Thank you from Line Mom. You went viral with Deb 2020 with Murdaugh. What's next? Autograph, please. Very funny. Thank you, Line Mom. Line Mom was instrumental in making sure that I had a place in the Johnny Depp trial because, y'all, the Johnny Depp trial was not like the Murdaugh trial. And shout out to Miss Becky Hill, the clerk of court for Colton County, because she handled this trial so well. The media all had passes, blocked rows where we could sit, where we didn't have to worry, where we didn't have to wait on a line. And people who waited out front were given numbers. They were allowed to go and come back. It was dealt with properly and well. There was no fighting. There was no pushing. There was no screaming. There was no sleeping in tents out front all night. Although some people did camp out on the last few days at 2 in the morning, apparently. But it was not the same mayhem as the Johnny Depp trial. And Jamie, Line Mom, knows about the mayhem during the Johnny Depp trial. She was there with, oh, Jamie, you remember. I have PTSD from that. But I don't know what's next. I have to see that 2020 interview. Lisa, question. OMG, did you notice Alex dripping large amounts of snot from his nose and smearing it all over his face? I did, and OMG. That is how I'll respond to that. Teresa, did Maggie's family talk with Buster at court? Yeah, so if you all will remember, I shared a story. Excuse me as I adjust for a second the seat. I shared a story from court when Maggie's sister testified, and after her and her husband had testified, they walked out of court, and as they walked out past the family, she hugged Buster. Marianne went to shake her hand, and she grabbed her arm, and she was not really interested in. Oh, I said Marianne, that's her name, Lynn, Alex's sister. Lynn went out to grab her hand, and Marianne was not very interested. Marianne. I keep saying Marianne. Marianne did give a hug to John Marvin's wife, Liz, and John Marvin. And then John Marvin and his wife walked out past Marianne and her husband, and they went downstairs. And then that's when I went down a little bit later, like a few minutes, and I passed Liz, that's John Marvin's wife, walking back up into court, and she looked like she had been crying very hard. So, yeah, that's that story. Hempland, Texas, thank you for the super chat. Whatever you need fund. Heck yeah. Well, I think I'm almost there on the camera. The problem is that YouTube does take percentages of everything, of course. So that is what it is. But I am just gonna build the coolest setup for not a setup, and I don't like to use the word cool, but there's probably a bad word, but the best that I can for you all. So I have a good lighting and travelable. Is that even a word? Travelable? No, that's not a word. Travelable. Sorry, y'all. Travelable camera setup so I can do live streams with video so y'all can see me. Crystal says the lawyer you know is covering Sarah Boone and Courtney C. cases as well as Valo Daybell. Valo Daybell is a little bit too emotional for me. Anything involving children is just, it's too hard for me, y'all. It's a little bit too much. I don't know if I can handle that, but my good friend Gigi from Pretty Lies and Alibis on Twitter and I believe YouTube is covering that trial. And I might cover it a little bit at the end, but she's covering that in great extent. So I definitely suggest following her and giving her a check if you want to see that. Shonda, thank you for the super chat. Peter Tragos from A Lawyer You Know will be covering Sarah Boone. It's in Florida. He may go. Then I will maybe meet him there because I'm from Florida too. So that would be kind of cool. Question from Sarah Wynn. Did you notice Alex staring down the prosecution when he'd have to walk by their table? Not really, because remember, I am sitting behind all of them, so it's hard to see where his eyes pass. I will say when he took the stand, he stared at them quite intensely. The few live streams that I would see when I would watch Emily's recaps or things like that were actually when I would go on with Natalie and she would watch the recap. I did notice he would give some evil death stares. Olga wants to know how old his son was and how he passed. Oh, the judge's son, I believe, was 30 or a little bit older, 40 maybe, and I don't know how he passed, actually, but it's very sad. Passed away in the end of January. I see it in the chat. Oh, I'm behind. I'm like 10 minutes behind y'all. Sorry. Yeah, the judge's son passed. I don't know how. Question: alleged defendant. Considering you're still building your camera fund, how did you manage to pull up roots and move to South Carolina for nearly 2 months? Right? 6 weeks. Well, I thought it was only going to be 3 weeks, so I used a bunch of my Marriott Bonvoy points, which I was going to use to take a vacation, but that's okay. I used them to spend, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks, because during the weekends I would go home. So I'd either go to my house or I'd go visit my family on the weekends. And that's what I did for that. And then the extra few weeks, I have just spent my own money, honestly, and exhausted a little bit of, well, a lot of my savings, which is okay because I think it was a good experience, and I think that it was a good gamble professionally. I feel like I covered the Johnny Depp trial, and that obviously got me a large following and respect because I covered that with honesty and integrity as best as I could. A little bit of opinion at the end once I had to deal with some of the, oh, let's just say open letter people. But otherwise, I really tried to be completely unbiased with that entire trial. And that was helpful. But then this trial really solidified everything for me. So I felt like gambling and spending my own money was a little bit worth it. And yeah. And a question: is it true the rumors around town are that cousin Eddie shot Paul and Maggie? There were rumors that he could have been part of it and paid to do it. I don't know about that. Cousin Eddie is not a very credible witness because he had been caught lying on several occasions. However, I think it is interesting that when he was interrogated by the police, he had a very clear outlined alibi of where he was, and it all checked out 100%, of course. But I think it was like with his wife at home or something like that. So, it's not to say that she wouldn't have lied, but he had a very clear alibi and he made a note to say to them, "You're not going to pin this on me," which just is an interesting phrasing, don't you all think? You're not going to pin this on me. As if, and here's my conspiracy theory with that, but that's basically that. Ooh, I just said that too many times. My conspiracy theory, if he were involved, which I don't necessarily think I believe to be true, but if it were true, my conspiracy theory is that he was paid by Alex to do it. He was involved. I don't believe that Maggie was supposed to be injured necessarily. However, she was, and it became bigger deal than it was originally supposed to be. Alex probably was so just distraught with the whole situation because I do believe that he was distraught about as much as if he, again, you know, if he truly meant to do it as a premeditated act, I think as much as he didn't want to lose his son, and I think his wife might have been accidental, but ultimately his wife, it was something in his psychosis that he felt like he needed to do. But even afterwards, he probably had lots of turmoil and regret. And I do believe that that's the assassination attempt played a role in that. I don't believe that he did it. Let's just say that he committed that the assassination attempt, paid Eddie to shoot him and survive just to have the publicity taken off of him for the financial crimes and the murders. I think he probably meant it to go as planned and to actually, be assassinated because, then Buster would be left with all the money. And I just think, I don't know, that's my theory. If all of that were to be true, which I don't even know if it were true, but the whole point is that he told Eddie if Eddie had done this, hey, you won't, no one will ever find out because I'm the only one that knows that, you helped me with Paul and Maggie. And once you kill me, you'll get some money and no one will ever know. But I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that that's even one of the theories I even think is true. I'm just saying if Curtis Eddie's involved, I think that is a likely scenario. You'd have to precisely shoot yourself in a certain unless he did. He said, hold the gun to my head in just this way, so you're only gonna, get a little bit and it won't actually hurt. But I don't know. It's a long way to answer that question, but I hope it answered it. Real quick, Lisa Frampton, thank you for the new subscription. I appreciate that. If y'all who are watching don't mind subscribing and liking, that helps me with the algorithm. And, I will continue to do some streams as the week goes on about everything experienced in court and all the behind the scenes action and the jury and what the lawyers were like and what the media was like. As much as there's interest, I know interest is waning down as the week goes on, but I'm going to still cover this because I know you all have put not only the last 5 weeks into this, but some of you have been following the story for years. So I want to do the best I can to follow it through in the way that y'all want. But question from Crystal DeSaro. Have you ever thought that it all may be a series of unfortunate events for Alex? I have. Not saying that's the case, but I've thought about that. It's possible. I mean, do you mean that the series of unfortunate events are he built this house of cards for himself and it collapsed? Or do you mean that other things happened, like accidents and such like that? Either way, I mean, it's possible. I do believe he was involved, though. Hedgehog wants to know what do they think about his siblings? What do who think about whose siblings? Sorry. Try to ask this again. Mags Designs, thank you for the super chat. Is Buster getting back into law school? I don't know, actually. I know his girlfriend, Brooklyn, just graduated, right? And she's working for a law firm. I don't know what Buster will do. I think Buster needs therapy and a long vacation, probably. Eileen Taylor, what a great photo of you and the Judge Newman. Well done. James, you're a rock star. Well, thank you, Eileen. I appreciate that. Jenny from Georgia wants to know, is Rainey the oldest son of the Murdaugh brothers? Yes. And sister, because there's Lynn. Sorry. I believe that Randy is, yes. Law nerd Amber. Did the witness stand have the most uncomfortable chair stool setup you've seen yet? Those folks looked so uncomfortable. Yes, and I believe a number of them have said they were actually quite uncomfortable. So that and the jury chairs were uncomfortable as well, I believe. I noticed Blanket Lady was always squeaking in her chair, leaning back, leaning forward, things like that. Maggie Clendenden, do you think Randy has turned on Alex? Did he show up for sentencing? I don't know if he turned on him. I think he doesn't wanna it's so hard. I think the reputation of the family is so in the tanks now, I don't know if they really wanna be associated so much now that he was actually convicted. Maybe Randy was just there for support at first and then doesn't believe him anymore, or Randy could just have other obligations, but that is kind of a serious thing to be for. You'd think you would be there for the sentencing. YouTube user wants to know if I ever met Johnny Depp during the Johnny Depp trial. I did not. Nope. But maybe one day I will meet him and just laugh about some of the funny moments on of the Johnny Depp trial. Max Designs, give us a cash app. I think probably the mods responded to you by now, but it's James Reports, by the way. Michelle Brannon, question: will you be covering the Kohlberger case in later June? I hope so, but would understand if you are unable to. Absolutely. I would love to handle the Kohlberger case. Oh, but now I'm seeing the judge issue. I'm still like 10 minutes behind y'all. Sorry. Olga, how many subscribers did you gain from covering the trial? About 5,000, I think, on YouTube, maybe similar around on Twitter. If y'all want to subscribe, that would help me even more. I'm trying to get to 50,000. I'm around, I think, 24,000. I think 50,000 would be an awesome number to have subscribed for YouTube. Also, for Twitter, I would love to have another 20,000, 100,000. I feel like would put me up with that's like Ian and Rob and Larry and Emily and people like that. So if I could tell you all my goals would be 100K on Twitter and 50K on YouTube, and then I'll do something fun. I don't know. What do y'all want? Pick a goal for me. Anyway, Mimsy question: did you interview any of the Murdaugh family? I did not interview them, but I did speak to them at lunch. One time, Randy and John Marvin came up to me at lunch and were asking me questions about who I was and everything like that. We talked about the food trucks. I also told them, I felt for their family and everything they were going through, of course, and they said, "Thank you," that it was hard for them, but yeah. So I did get a little bit. I didn't after it started getting to the end, I really didn't want to interview them because the writing was on the wall. I mean, to me, during the closing arguments, it was just so high tense and things like that. And then, of course, after the conviction, the guilty verdict, I didn't want to, say anything. Amanda Snyder, it's awesome. You have the means to do what you do for all of us. I know it's tough. You're really appreciated. Trade off hard times is making great contacts. Absolutely. And I don't really have the means, but I'm making it work. And and I appreciate all of you who support me as well. Uh, Anne A. James, you are one of a very few that I follow on Twitter for anything court related. You are very relatable and credible. I think you will be very successful in this law group thingy. Thank you, Anne. I hope so. I hope I can just continue to give you all good information. Sometimes I'll tweet snarky replies and responses and such, and don't don't be too quick to drop me or unfollow me because I'll always cover cases and things you want to know as well. Antoinette Kilpatrick, you know who really wasn't at the kennels that night? Cousin Eddie. Alex Murdaugh was there at the time of the murders. Paul's video proved that. Exactly. We know that. We don't know if Cousin Eddie was ever at the kennels. We know that Alex was at some point. And from what we know, very close to when their ultimate deaths took place. Yeah. Question. Sorry, just looking for a few more questions. Ashley King, question: if the boat case or to gain sympathy was his motive, why would he ask Maggie to come to Moselle? All he needed was one person, Paul. If it was planned, it doesn't make sense to ask Maggie to come. That's fair, actually. Yeah, unless it was planned to do that to Maggie as well. I've heard other things about their relationship and how it wasn't really as good as people made it seem, and that possibly she was having extramarital affairs and so was he, but I don't know. I guess that is a good point. Maybe he wanted her to come back to then go to the moms. I don't know. Maybe he really did just want to get rid of them and thought that that would make his life easier. He would, he would get to put the boat, everything with the boat behind him. Teresa, was Maggie going back home to the beach house that night? Was she originally supposed to? Y'all, it's so hard to remember the little details of this trial. I'm sorry, you can tell me. Law Nerd Amber, thank you very much for the Cash App tip. I appreciate that. That's a way to help me out without YouTube taking any portion, and always appreciated. Lala, Alabama, James, did you tell Judge Newman how everyone loves him? Actually, I did. So I did. When I met him, I said he did a good job at maintaining all of the craziness of the court as far as the outside spectacle of it and everything like that, because I believe he did. And I told him that a lot of people on the internet loved him. So all of you that are big fans of Judge Newman, just know that he knows. And remember, he watches everything. He watches what you all say on Twitter. He watches what's trending because he was on Twitter and he is the one that saw about Jim Griffin's tweet originally. So Elizabeth W. Oh no, not W. Elizabeth Cook wants to know why didn't the change jurisdiction? So I think from what I had heard, actually, well, and this is from the former attorney general, they didn't change because no matter where they had went, there was always going to be people who knew about this, whether it was the county, and you can only choose. I think if you don't want to do the county, your county that it's in, you can do like the county next door. You have to do the county next door, and I mean the county next door is Hampton, so everyone in Hampton knows them, and then the other county, I think that's where Somerville's in, and everyone knows them all over the surrounding counties, so it really wouldn't have made any difference. Glow T, thank you for the super chat. You are a rock star. Y'all are the rock stars as well. All of us law nerd and true crime enthusiasts. Because y'all in the chat also have a lot of good facts and are the ones that share it, in the different places. And I appreciate all of the support. Queen Net, James from Court. Remember, Alex said Maggie and Paul to come home to Moselle. And he also spent an unusual quality time with Paul because he knew that was the last time he would be with his son. Oof, that's dark. Yeah, that's bleak. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Sorry, just had a drink of water, and that's y'all's reminder to take a drink of water and to smash that like button. Kyrie, thank you very much for the super chat. What was most surprising to you about this trial or culture or visit? Well, there's a lot of things that were most surprising, I guess, about the court, about the trial, surprising things that happened inside of the trial. I guess overall, the most surprising was how much of I guess, and I hate to be cliche here with this, but, the good old boys club, because it permeates through a lot of culture here, especially in the political and legal realm of South Carolina. Even when I went to court, just the fact that the media is so intertwined with the court happenings and with the legal teams and with the court staff, and that everyone knows everyone, and it's all, access is all about who you know and your standing and your ranking. and which club you're a part of. It just feels like it kind of is a staple of the culture. Although that is changing now that, the good old boys club was not able to protect Alex in this situation. It definitely is something that I guess surprised me because I heard about it beforehand, but I didn't know again that it was such an institutional part of the culture here. Lala, Alabama, is it true Buster broke down after he let court Thursday? Apparently, it is true. I heard it directly from Gigi from Pretty Lies and Alibis, and she said that she saw it, and I believe her. She's one of my court buddies. Question from YouTube user: did you notice Jim Griffin paused when he talked about Alec lying about being at the kennels as if he was struggling with it himself? I didn't notice the pause. I mean, it's so hard, y'all, because they actually paused a lot. They would pause and take 10 minutes to look through their notes. So I don't know if I noticed that pause specifically, but that's a good catch. And that'd be something to look back in the streams and think about and try to analyze because I do wonder about how his friends are struggling with this and someone like Jim Griffin, who is his legal defense, but also one of his family friends, how he's struggling with this. If he really did believe him, if he just said, I got to do this for my friend, but I don't know if I believe if he actually did it. And then now, halfway through the trial or however much through the trial, started to have his doubts, or maybe just he always didn't believe it, but then the trial started to wane on him, the emotional aspect of it. I don't know. I wonder about that. Jenny Georgia said, "I would not be in court if I knew one of my siblings killed their family. I would not." Yeah, I agree. James, Deidre, do you ever think you'd do a meet and greet? A meet and greet? Is there enough people that want to do a meet and greet with me? I don't know. What about not just me? What about like a law tube convention, a law tube con? Is that cheesy? Where we can do like a panel and we could do live discussions? All right, I'm going to answer more questions, but let's real quick. I want to pull up the response from the law firm where Alex's brother is at, so y'all can see the response directly from him because it would be good to read through just so we can see their wording and their actual reactions. Just picking that up now. Hmm. All right, sorry, 1 second, y'all. All right, yes. The former law firm released a statement after murder conviction. And it's not the one that I don't think it's the one that the brothers at. I misspoke. Sorry. It's the one that was started by his grandfather, Randolph Murdaugh Sr. All right, so let me just get this tab up as the Jeopardy music plays in the background. There we go. All right, so y'all should be able to see this here. Alex Murdaugh's former law firm released a statement after murder conviction. Oh, Randy does still work here. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. So that's interesting. Yeah, his brother still works here. So just minutes after Alex Murdaugh was convicted for the murders of his wife and son, his former law firm released a statement. Murdaugh was murder. Murdaugh was found guilty Thursday night for killing his wife Maggie and son Paul on June 7th, 2021, on the family's nearly 1,800-acre property. The Parker Law Group, formerly um I'm just gonna spell it PMPED. How do I say that, y'all? Am I thinking how to say that how it looks how it's spelled? Anyway, uh, released a statement on its website and Facebook page which read, "The actions of Alex Murdaugh are shocking to us all. Tonight's verdict, which was rendered after a thorough and fair trial, brings justice and some closure to this awful matter. Maggie and Paul died tragically and for reasons we may never fully comprehend. They were much beloved and will forever mourn their loss." Um, PMPED was founded by was founded in 1910 by Randolph Murdaugh Sr. It was renamed after it came to light that Alex Murdaugh had been embezzling large amounts of money from the firm over the course of several years. Alex's brother, Randy Murdaugh, continues to work at the firm. Okay, so there that is. So yeah, that's a very interesting look at this. So right off the bat, a thorough and fair trial. Fair trial. So, after Johnny Depp and Amber Heard came out and basically said everything was a sham, it wasn't fair, blah, 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 woe is me. And so was Whitney and other people. And then the same thing with the Jussie Smollett trial. Remember, after Jussie Smollett, his family, this wasn't fair, everything's against us, we believe him, he's innocent, blah, blah, blah. Well, Randy's not saying that, and Randy's firm is not saying that. And look here, died tragically and for reasons we may never fully comprehend. Very odd. I mean, sometimes it's almost what you don't say, you know, that matters. And I think there's a lot that they're not saying here. A lot. I don't know. And it's telling that he didn't show up as well. It's kind of weird. It's a little coincidental. Can I speak? Coincidental. Maggie Clendenin, no question, just wanna say thank you. Oh, thank you, okay. You're the best, y'all are the best. Thank you for enjoying my streams, thank you for being with me, helping me out. Remember, soon I am going to get a camera, so we're gonna have a fun time, and then I'll dye my hair. Maybe I'll do a live stream where I will dye my hair, and I'll have members content, membership pages open for y'all. Oh, no, hold on, I think I gotta sneeze. Whoop, hold on. Alright, y'all. Blame it on the pollen. Lily chats, did you get a chance to talk with any of the witnesses? I didn't. A lot of the witnesses left in and out, and also I just didn't feel like I had a lot to ask them that wasn't already going to be asked of them. I'm much more of kind of a excuse me, a behind the scenes person and a jury watch person. And I also feel like it's a little bit invasive of these witnesses' privacy in a double homicide to ask them, kind of like behind the scenes type questions. If this were just a civil case or defamation or whatever, I would ask them questions. Question from Jenny GA. Would you think about making some business cards? Yeah, I do. Uh, I can. What would you like me to do with the business cards? I can send. I mean, I can post them or send them. I should hand them out more, probably. Jenny, you wanna be my agent or my publicist? Carolyn Scruggs, what was with the weird staging on Moselle when the jury toured it? Someone saw someone moving around upstairs in Moselle, the blue shirt seen in the window, a Buster handprints flower pot? The blue shirt in the window, that's creepy. I don't know about that. Are you just trying to scare me? That's giving me creepy vibes, y'all. For real. Question from Maggie again. Do you have an Amazon wish list? If so, how do we find it? I do. I do. Would any of the mods like to put that in? If Lori or I don't know if Squirrel or anyone else is here, but Lori, if you already saw that, you probably put it in already. But I do. And I don't ask y'all, you don't have to buy me anything. But if you want, I have some things in there. Lala, Alabama. Do you think Sled will come for Buster for Steven Smith? I don't know. I really don't think that there's a lot of evidence, and I've heard mixed reports. I've heard that Alex was the one involved with Steven Smith. It's just so much rumors with that, and there's really not a lot of evidence there, but you never know. I'm not gonna say never. You never say never, right? It's my grandparents say to me. Mellow Logic, did you hear any stories about how Randolph murder Listen, y'all, the name Murdaugh is now ever going to be known or referred to with the word murder. So sorry if I keep mixing up Murdaugh and murder. Randolph Murdaugh Sr. was killed, run over by a train. I didn't hear stories about that. That's crazy. I did hear stories about how Randolph Murdaugh Sr., or was it Jr., whichever the one the father is, that Alex's mother faked a what is it called? An obituary so that they thought she had died because I guess she wanted attention. But that was a bit that was a big she put a thing in the paper that she had died when she didn't die. Just seeing if there's any more questions. Jennifer wants to know what color I'm dyeing my hair. Well, just to preface it, I'm only dyeing my hair because over the summer after the Johnny Depp trial, we raised over $250,000 for the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. And in return for getting past, I think, 240,000, I said I would dye my hair. There was a poll in the chat. The options were white, orange, red, purple, blue, green, I think. Y'all chose purple. So that is also the color of domestic violence awareness. And we know that Johnny Depp was a victim of domestic violence. So, yeah. Goosebump. Question: have locals commented on the HBO Netflix specials? I'm curious what they find accurate or not. That actually is a good question. I should go around and ask some locals. I didn't ask people about how they felt about the specials. I just asked them what they thought about the case. Editor Daniel Marie, what do you think PMPED Parker statement is not saying? Well, I just mean that if you want to affirm that someone's innocent because that's what you truly believe, you say that. You make the statement. You say that. And if you don't want to bash the legal system or the jury or the judge, you say this trial was handled with care and diligence. However, we firmly disagree with the decision because of the lack of blah, 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 blah. And we stand with, you know, not even, sorry, you don't have to say we stand with, but the fact that they didn't say anything really positive towards Alex is what they didn't say. Ellie has a question revolving the recent inmate photo that was released of Alex Murdaugh being booked into federal prison, I believe. Why do you think they shaved his head? I'm not buying lice. I do believe lice is a part of it. I do believe it's probably also a shame thing that they do in the prisons, possibly. Maybe he chose to do that because he is losing his mind and just wants to look like the scariest version of himself possible. Maybe he wants to join the Aryan skinhead gang in prison because he thinks that's the best way. He will avoid a messy situation in the showers, and that's all I'll say about that. James Myers, thanks, James, for asking Judge Newman the tough questions. Well, I didn't ask him any questions. That was inside edition. I just told him how people thought and felt, and I listened to the questions. But also, he really did not want to answer questions. He didn't even want to come over when he saw the camera and the reporter from Inside Edition. But the guy basically heckled him to come over and said, "Hey, hey, come over. I promise we only have one question. It's softball. We'll just throw it to you." So he came over and then he was very nice enough to take a picture with uh one person that was standing there, a fan, and then he saw that I was there and asked me, and I wasn't even gonna ask him to take a picture, but he said, "Hey, do you want one too?" And I was like, "Well, it's probably the only chance I'll ever get to take a picture with him, or maybe even any sitting judge." So I know that you all wanted to see him, and you know what? He's been dealing with a lot of things lately. If this little 15 minutes of fame for him can distract him from the horrible tragedy that his family is dealing with, I'm happy to give him that moment, you know? So, Hamilton, OMG, I just watched the HBO special. Completely why they I under completely why they convicted AM in 3 hours. I understand completely why they did. Okay, yeah. I haven't watched the HBO special, to be honest, but maybe I will this weekend. Lily chats, "So what's next, James? Where are you going after leaving Walterboro?" "Back home to Florida, sunny, sunny Florida, where the water is warm and my tan will set in nicely." And then, I don't know, probably back up north for Easter. I like to go up north for Easter where the daffodils and the tulips are and stuff. Teresa, what did you hear with Buster having a relationship with Smith? Do I think Buster is bisexual? I do not know. I don't know what letter Buster identifies as. What did I hear about having I heard rumors from you all and from other people that he had a thing with Sam Smith. Stephen Smith. I don't know anything about that. I heard also other mixed reports. Shelley Ellis. Alex could have spoken to distance his crime from his son. After all, this young man still has a life to live. If Alex has a soul, he should have asked people to not blame Buster at least. Probably. Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. If it was him that was involved with it. Cabo Porter, I see this little troll here. Maybe this is just your opinion. No, I did not ask Judge Newman to his face if he was biased. Uh, I'll let you do that. I see some of your other posts. Clearly, you don't like the judge. That is okay to have. I respect all opinions, but I disagree with you. I like him. And yeah. Golden Mare says that the water is not warm in Florida. It is in South Florida, in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. It's not cold. I mean, it's not hot like it is in summer. It's not bath water, but it's quite warm. Quite warm. Y'all are funny. and I try to be funny. I like to have a little sense of humor. I think in another life, I might have done stand-up comedy, or maybe I will eventually. That would be fun, right? I can turn this streaming into, like, legal comedy where I could do a stand-up show about all the crazy shit that happened in the Johnny Depp trial, right? And I can say all the funny stories. Like, y'all, let me get this photo up because I saw this photo and I was just I want to say the word because it's an emoji I like to use, but I don't want YouTube to demonetize me. But we'll just say I was shook. Oh, damn, I zoom out a lot, don't I? What is this, y'all? Do you see this? Oh wait, no, you don't see this. All right, hold on. I'm about to get it. And I know y'all saw the photo of Creighton Waters, and yes, Creighton did put up photos of himself and things like that. And I don't love when lawyers take photos after trials. I like that the Johnny Depp lawyers were very classy. They didn't take any photos. They just did some, public appearances, and that's it. So, but y'all, look at this. I mean, how hilarious. Is this not That's why I said, this trial was a circus. It was a sideshow carnival. Do you see that there? Do you see I was at the Murdaugh trial? This is like you're at the state fair, and this is a double homicide. That's kind of that's what I mean about this, trial being very different than the Johnny Depp trial. You would have not seen this shit. Even though I know they had the alpacas and the guy in the Depp thing, running around as Jack Sparrow. That's all legal, you know, just the public showing up expressing their freedom of speech. This is like a lawyer a lawyer taking a photo. Just yeah, circus indeed. Danielle, I think this was outside of the circus. It was it's not the circus. I think outside the courthouse. If it wasn't outside of the courthouse and they made that and they threw a party and took a picture of it, that's really bad. I hope I hope that's not the case. I hope that's like a fan made that and it was just around there, and it just around there, and that he happened to go into it. I will have to get some videos of Creighton Waters band playing too, because that would be fun. I mean, it is funny. I can't believe he posted it. Yeah, he posted this. This is what the lawyer posted on Twitter. I mean, after out y'all, after his client was just convicted of 2 life sentences for murdering his son and daughter. Not daughter. Long day. His son and wife. I mean, this is insane. Oh, he's in state prison? He should be in federal prison. How is he in state prison? Whatever. He's in prison. That's true. They're also friends, not just client. This is his friend who murdered his family friends. He was family friends with Maggie and Paul. And it's just kind of Weird. Also, the fact that Jim Harpootlian is a state senator now and has to go on being a politician, I don't know how the Democrats in South Carolina I don't know how they keep him. I mean, well, of course they keep him, and it is I get it, it's his job to defend people, but he called him a good person, and he was, what, so honored to know him or something? I forgot the exact words, y'all can tell me in the chat, but, I mean, he said those things about Alec, defended him. Imagine I mean, just for a moment, if he wasn't, imagine if he was a different party and the response to him, defending a murderer that has been involved in financial corruption and all sorts of things. I don't think I mean, I think the state party, the Democrats have a tough decision to make with Harpootlian, and I think his political career should absolutely be affected. Yeah, he said he was honored to represent him. Honored. It's one thing to say, "You know what? This is my friend, and he has absolute every right to be defended under the law. And as his friend, I'm going to be there because he needs people that know him and care about him. And listen, at the end of the day, I'm a lawyer and I'm going to do my job. I don't like what happened. And something like that." But he didn't say anything like that. He said he was honored to represent him. So just, it doesn't sit well. Nicole Hernandez, yes, the bald mugshot is the new mugshot, and let's look that up so y'all can see that. Switch it here, maybe. Alex Murdaugh mugshot. Yeah, so here y'all go. This is the new mugshot of Alex Murdaugh. Now, I can tell you, if he went into court looking like this, he would have been 3 minutes and not 3 hours of deliberations, right? James, I have a question for you. Is there any probate to designate Alec Murdaugh as a serial killer? I don't think so. I think unless they can prove it was multiple people that was planned, right? James, from Jay, I have a question for you. Oh wait, no, I just answered that. Did you ask it again? Oh, you asked it twice. That's why. Okay, that's fine. Crystal Bark, who is paying Poot? So Poot is paid from Alex's original retainer because they were representing Paul in the boat crash investigation. So that's how they still have a lot of the money, and then I guess whatever maybe money they have left, whatever money Alex funneled from the Cayman Islands. But yeah, because they were staying at a very nice hotel. It was like an estate. Yeah. Jay, thank you very much for the super chat. Or super sticker. I don't see what it is, but I hope it is fun. Jennifer says some of it's from the 401k. Okay, that's right. That could be it as well. I don't know about all the details of that. I'm sure, the other investigators who go really, really into it in depth will know. Listen, it's enough for me to just be staring and trying to people watch for 8 hours a day. It's exhausting. It's hard for me to figure out everything that's going on and read articles. And I know Mandy's got her podcast and everyone else has got a podcast. But now that it's over, I can probably look more into everything. Dawn wants to know if they shaded his head again. No, I think this is just original. So, yeah. Oh, and we have a special guest. We have Natalie, the lawyer chick. Hello, hello.
Hey James, how's it going? Uh-oh,
Hey,
can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm great.
Yeah, I'm just answering questions talking about the Murdaugh trial. I wanted to know, of course, your thoughts of the verdict. I heard you a little bit. I heard you talk about how you felt that Alex basically Wright shouldn't have testified, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think we saw from the jurors' reactions in their articles that it was kind of his testimony that did it in for them, right?
Yeah, I think that was a major part of it. I don't think the state's case was very strong until Alex testified. I think his testimony kind of answered some open questions that I had and put his credibility really at issue. So I just don't think it was a good idea for him to have testified.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard in your chat, I appreciate you giving me credit for going against at the time and reporting from inside the courtroom because, yeah, I felt like I understood everyone watching and seeing his expressions and feeling for him and having that emotional connection with him on the screen, but being there in court, it really did feel different, and I didn't see the reactions in the jurors that I felt defense needed, um,
Right.
in order to make him feel sympathetic, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I from hmm So when you were telling my viewers, and thank you so much for bringing us your perspective, when you were telling my viewers, look, like this is what the jury is doing. They're not looking at him, or if they are, they're very stony faced and they're not reacting to Poot well, and they're not reacting to this well. People were kind of, I guess, upset with that, or they disagreed with that because that didn't square with the perception of what they had from watching it on TV. And I even remember at the time being like,
Mm.
I mean, we can all have our own opinions, but James is there, so you really should pay attention to what he's saying. And I think that was kind of it was a preview of what was to come. I mean, jurors' reactions to the witnesses is really important in trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, and I just felt like, again, in that moment, as much as and from one of the jurors, he wasn't crying, apparently,
Mm-hmm,
but,
mm-hmm.
there was that kind of, I guess, desperation in his crying. I don't know, I mean, looking back now, I think about it, and I feel like his reaction was very much self-interested, that maybe he was just seeing the walls closing in, and that caused him, or maybe he was reliving that experience, and that's why he was so upset and not really upset
Mm-hmm.
by what, you know, like, and I feel like
Yeah,
that's what the jurors saw because they were up there
yeah.
really close to him, you know?
Yeah, they were up there really close to him. I mean, you're right. It could be that kind of, you're kind of saying two things, which could absolutely both be true. One is that his emotions could have been genuine, but just not mean what we think they should mean in a case like this. You know, he could genuinely be grieving. He could genuinely be feeling guilty. Um, he could be reliving the moment of killing his own kid, or kid and wife, or he could be crying deeply because he's innocent and he stands here accused of the death of his family. But nothing at all compares to the jurors sitting right there. I mean, we heard from one gentleman who said, I saw snot but I didn't see tears. That's only a distinction that someone sitting
Mm.
right next to somebody can really make, because he did a lot of wiping. I couldn't tell if tears were coming out or not, but I took his emotion as genuine, but I wasn't there with him while he was crying. So yeah, you covered both of the bases there.
Yeah, and it's true. I couldn't tell from where I was sitting if he was crying or not. So to have the juror confirm no, there were no tears, almost in an Amber-esque kind of way,
Mhm.
and then it's funny too because the reporter pushed back on that, about if he was crying or
Yeah.
not, and he said, "Well, I was sitting there, I was just sitting 3 feet away." So,
Yeah. I looked at his eyes, he said.
yeah.
I was looking at his. And here's the thing, this is the real risk with him testifying is that um Murdaugh's emotions could have been real. Maybe he really was crying. But if they're already so turned against you because they think you're a big old liar and they don't believe you, they just don't perceive you as being capable of real sadness and grief and being bereft. And instead, no matter what you do, even if it's crying, they see that as another extension of you being dishonest. And so they don't believe it. It's like once they already have that perception of you, you can't recover that, really by getting on the stand. And then all you're doing is just confirming the thoughts they already have about you and confirming lots of the state's version of events. And that's why I'm really of the opinion that it was just such a bad idea for him to testify. I felt it in the moment as he was doing it. Um, and I still feel it now.
Yeah. Question for you from Mellow Logic. Natalie,
Sure.
do you think he could have been convicted just in the kennel lie recorded interviews, testimony, and the data from the phones?
No, I think it would have been a hung jury. Um, with the kennel video and everything, because I think his attorneys could have still made an argument that he either it's not him on the kennel video, or listen to our expert who says that he was back up at the house and he couldn't have heard the shots, and they don't have any evidence that he was present when the shots were ringing out. And people's memories can fade and they can make mistakes, and just because he made a mistake doesn't mean that he lied. But once he got on the stand and he said, yes, I lied, just like with what the juror said, like, that kind of like, that was his only chance until he got on the stand and said that he was a liar. That was his only chance, was to argue that, I didn't lie, I just made a mistake. So I really think that he did still stand a chance. I don't think the ballistics were very good evidence. I don't think that the timeline was open enough to really, hammer it in my head that he had time to do it. It wasn't until he testified and said, yes, that's me. And I was down at the kennels and I lied about it because I was paranoid. That was the moment where I was like, oh, crap, you have sunk your ship, and I think that it was like that for the jurors too.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you surprised that the verdict only took 35 minutes?
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, same.
Hmm. I
I,
actually
I
don't.
really thought it was
Yeah.
going to be a hung jury.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it could have been. But I just, they said that when they went in, some of them were not guilty. I think some of them were undecided, and 9 were at guilty for sure. And then within 45 minutes, they convinced them. That concerns me. Like, did you go through the evidence? Like, what did you just talk about to get you from undecided and not guilty to guilty? I don't know.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it was just the idea of having to come back on Monday and
Hmm.
deliberate longer, if they were just like, "You know what? There's 9 against 3. We're just giving up." I don't know,
Majority
you wonder
rules.
in these kinds of. Yeah,
It
right?
has.
You hope not. I mean, I don't wanna say
Hmm.
that because you want someone's, of course, you don't wanna make a decision like that, but humans are humans, and if the 3 people weren't really
Yeah.
strong in their convictions, you know?
Yeah, and at least with the jurors that spoke that were for guilty, and it was 2 of them that I've heard of so far. They seem to be pretty strong in their convictions. So, we say that as lawyers sometimes, like they just want to go home, and that's why they came to that verdict. And that's something we do say to each other, but we don't really know that for sure. And I respect jurors enough to hope and pray that they, hold themselves to the verdict, or to the burden and the oath that they swear to take when they take it. But gosh, 45 minutes. they go in and it takes them about 45 minutes after that to come to a conclusion, and only 3 hours of deliberation. That's real short. That's a real short period of time.
Is no, it definitely. I don't know if I could have made a decision that quick too, especially with all of that evidence and the fact that they couldn't write anything down either. But
Yeah, exactly. They said that they can. So one of the jurors, the one who gave an interview that was just a written interview, it wasn't audio recorded. He said that after they got like their 15-minute breaks, they would go and write down any questions that they had in the deliberation room, and then they would see if the questions were answered during the trial itself. So, and sometimes it would be, and sometimes it wouldn't be. So I guess that was one way of how they tried to keep track of what was going on. But it was what, a 4 week trial? Was it 6 weeks? How long was it, James?
yeah, it was supposed to be 3 weeks, and it turned out being six, almost six.
6 weeks with no notes. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know how you keep track of everything. And then 3 hours, 45 minutes of getting to guilty. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Um, Listen, I want to show you this real quick. Have you seen this picture that uh Alex Murdaugh's lawyer Jim Griffin posted?
What, this one right here? Yeah.
No, this is the mugshot where he shaved his head.
Mhm. Mhm.
I made a joke that if he had came to court like this, that he would have it would only would have taken like 15 minutes to convict him.
Oh yeah, you you look like a hardened criminal. He does anyway. He looks like a hardened criminal. He did. I don't think the shaved head really suits him. But from what I heard, when you get booked
Yeah,
into
right?
jail, they shave your head. You have no choice. That's what I heard.
Okay, so is that what it is? That's what I thought it was. Some people said lice,
Mhm.
some people said other things, but it's just what they do in prison, right?
Yeah, well, not where I am, but that's the intel that I've been given, that when they are in South Carolina in that county, when you get booked in, that they shave your head. So,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
he's going to
Interesting.
prison. So, like on his way to prison, they shaved his head. Like he's not in the jail anymore because he's already been sentenced to his life sentence. So that's what I heard it was, but I could be wrong. But that's just what I was told.
Yeah, I would be interested to know. I think that sounds about right, but I would be curious.
Hmm.
But check out if you can
What the
see the
heck is this?
screen. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's Jim Griffin, this defense attorney.
He
And if
shared
you see
this.
there, that little note says, "I was at the Murdaugh trial."
What?
Yeah, it's like a
Waterboro,
sideshow carnival.
what the hell? You just lost. You can't act like that. What are
I
you
know.
doing? What is he doing? What?
It's
This is
crazy,
so
right?
weird. And
Like
he's the
you
one that
was
made the
just sent to
statements
prison.
on like 60 minutes and stuff like that they used against Murdaugh in the cross examination. He and he was tweeting during the trial, and the judge saw it and people complained about it. He just doesn't learn. I mean, what in the world?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's
What in
taking
the
one of those
world?
maybe bad publicity courses, but you're right, the fact that he was in trouble early on with the judge.
Ugh. Yeah, this is, I don't know,
Exactly.
man. This is very, very weird. People talk trash about public defenders, but other than that, than Koberger's public defender, we don't normally do stuff like this. This is really weird.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, James. This is like, I'm staring at this right now. It's so bizarre. Why would you do this? You've already been reprimanded. Well, not really, but like softly reprimanded for tweeting about the trial while the trial was going on. And the second and his statements to 60 Minutes tripped up Alec on cross examination because it was different than Alex's own
Mm.
testimony in court. And now you're going to tweet some more, and a funny tweet after you just lost a double homicide trial and your client got life in prison. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it just again, and I've said it before, everything about this trial turned out to be insane, but to have
Yeah.
the one of the lead attorneys for the defense take a
Yeah.
state fair photo after it, like, again, like it's a sideshow
Yeah.
at the state fair, and from the caption, "I was at the Alex Murdaugh trial." I mean, even that in itself is just so cringe.
It's
Ugh,
disrespectful too. Your client was just
it is.
convicted of double homicide. You lost. This is not one
Yeah.
of those, like, he had a chance. It's like, oh, we didn't stand a chance in hell. They stood a chance and they lost. And it happens. It's happened to me. It happens. You lost. Your client is convicted of murdering his wife and son, and you're making funny pictures like this is Mad Libs. I don't understand. Why would you do this?
No, I don't know, I mean,
Mm-mm.
so, I mean, lawyers that do things like this, do you think that this is something that people will see, especially I don't know, is this a way to get publicity? Is this something that you think would hurt his career?
I really don't know, honestly. It's hard for me to have a gauge on things like this because every time I've, for everything professionally for me, I have never done this form of advertising, like a commercial or anything like that. I don't need to advertise for my job
Yeah.
because clients just come to us. We have too many clients. We have a lot of clients, right? And when I worked in a law
Nice, yeah,
firm,
absolutely.
they only did word of mouth advertising when I used to work at this law firm. So they never did anything like, commercials or anything like that. They didn't like that style of advertising. And so I've never had the opportunity to need to or want to do, a commercial or put myself out there or get famous in order to attract clients. So I already am kind of biased against stuff like this, but I don't even know if he's thinking about that. I think this is just a personality thing. Like, I feel like he just likes the camera and, hey, me too, but not about your active criminal case. It still is pending appeal. Like, what are you doing, sir? What is happening? I I I can't see this as being a very effective marketing tool after you've just lost your trial. I wouldn't take this guy seriously. I wouldn't hire him if I was just if I was just charged with something really serious. I wouldn't hire this guy. I wouldn't, and again, I could be just being biased, but it comes across kind of ambulance chaser to me, kind of trashy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, I don't think you're being biased. I think in all actuality, from talking with you, you've been very fair to the defense throughout, the trial, and I think a lot of people I've seen online tweets supporting the defense saying they've done, a good job with the case that they had and things like that, and they did, of course, poking holes in a lot of the state's issues and of
Hmm.
I mean, the cross-examination of SLED where they lied up to the grand jury, I mean, that was huge,
Hmm.
That was, I think, very significant, but then to have him come out of trial and engage in this behavior when just as what you said, he is filing an appeal, he's very much still in this whole process. So you're gonna
Yeah.
do something like this, but it's also I mean, and I wanna be fair, Creighton Waters also posted some photos on Twitter. He's also in a band, I think he posted about his band and stuff, so they're all trying to, I guess, make it out in the Twitter world from this, but it's another thing if you're taking a photo in, like, a rooster head cutout, saying, "I was at the Murdaugh trial," like you were at some again, like a state fair booth, taking a picture with the
Yeah.
biggest pumpkin of the season. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't like it at all. And, our profession is supposed to be a profession, and sometimes personalities get in the way of that, but we're supposed to take our clients' cases seriously. The courtroom is a somber place where, life and death is doled out. People can win or lose large sums of money. His client was just convicted of a double homicide. I just don't think a circus picture is appropriate. Like, if for example, if Creighton like burned Alec Murdaugh in effigy, I would not think that was appropriate either. I feel like we should act professional at all times, and just when it comes to our clients' cases, you can have fun and be a fun personality, obviously, but referencing the trial itself, like after your client just got life in prison, is so bizarre. It's just so weird to me.
Absolutely, yeah. I have a question for you, specifically again as well. From Dawn, Natalie, do you think they should have gone back to the grand jury with corrected info?
Hmm. Do I think they should have gone back to the grand jury with corrected info?
Is that
I
like
mean,
with the issue or
no, so they don't really so the thing is that when in this situation, I don't think that would be necessary, right? The purpose because one of the detectives, he basically was saying stuff about like how um there were two different types of ammunition inside of the gun that was found at Alex's home, and that's consistent with the type of bullets that were used to kill, I think, Maggie, not Paul, but Maggie, right? And so he said that to the grand jury, the detective, knowing that that wasn't true. And that was super shady. And so, should they have corrected things with the grand jury once they determined that, it wasn't true? Well, first of all, he knew it wasn't true when he said it, so there was really nothing to correct because he just made a misrepresentation. He knew that that was not the case by the time he testified to the grand jury, and he testified to that under oath in front of the trial jury. But let's say that it was a mistake and he didn't know that, right? He just made an accident. Well, you say what you know to the grand jury. The grand jury comes back with a pronouncement. But unless it substantially changes, like, oh, the victim is now somebody different, or it happened a month before when you thought it happened, or it happened in a different jurisdiction, like it's something that um like changes the nature of the offense, you don't need to get a new indictment. That would just be getting a new indictment. You can't update an indictment you already have. You'd have to dismiss the old indictment and then go get a new indictment. Instead, the law understands that you need to do investigation, an ongoing investigation. And so, if it's not going to substantially change the nature of the indictment and you find out new information along the way before you get to the trial date, as long as you disclose that new information to the defense, you should not have to go dismiss the case and then go get a new indictment. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's actually
Mhm.
really informative to me too. I
Mhm.
didn't not ex I didn't have that question, but that's a great question, and I'm glad to hear that answer. And real quick, I have another if you don't mind, people do have
Mhm.
questions, if I could throw you a few questions.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem.
another Awesome. Another one from Blue Jays, but also real quick, I don't think a lot of because I actually looked at my YouTube analytics and my audience is pretty much just it looks like LawTube people. I think it's you, Emily, Rob, Ian, all that. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people know who you are, but I saw a couple questions. So if you want to just intro yourself real
Oh,
quick,
sure.
and then I'll
Yeah, yeah.
ask this next question.
No problem. Yeah, so my name is Natalie. I have a channel called Natalie Lawyer Chick. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I've been doing that since 2011. Yeah, I graduated law school in 2010. I passed the bar in 2011. I've been a public defender, and also I did some private practice work and workers' compensation. But most of my job, I mean, not most of my job, most of my experience and all of my job currently is doing criminal defense, which I love to do. And I bring you videos here on YouTube where I react to pertinent legal topics and silly things like sovereign citizens.
Nice, yeah, and I do enjoy your sovereign citizen content. I know the
Thanks.
Daryl Brooks trial must have been a doozy for you.
Oh my gosh. It was like a sovereign citizen trial on steroids. I've never seen one
Yes.
about something so serious. It's usually about traffic cases, never murder. So that was interesting and horrible.
Yeah, well, horrible, of course, that really was.
Hmm.
Ugh, yeah, I don't even wanna get into that because that was
Yeah,
not
that
good.
was bad.
So
Mhm.
Blue Jays, question for Natalie. What did Jim say on 60 Minutes that did not match up with Alex?
Oh, I don't particularly remember right now. It had something to do with the timeline. I think it might have been to do with the kennels. I think so, but I somebody can probably correct me. But I remember him asking Alec, like, so when your lawyer said that he wasn't telling the truth, and they made a big deal out of it when they objected. Um, but because they went to attorney-client communication, but Jim had already disclosed it on 60 Minutes, and I think it had something to do with like the timeline and where Alec was, and I think it was to do with presence at the the kennels, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, true. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think his life is like now that he's in prison?
They're probably going to have him in administrative segregation for a while until they figure out if he'll be like a danger to himself or if he'll be in danger
Mm,
because he's a former prosecutor. So people that are prosecutors and former judges, former police officers, even former defense attorneys, they can be if they're in prison, they're at heightened risk of violence and stuff like that. So they might segregate him for a bit. He's going to get assigned to a unit, classified into a unit, and then it's going to be, you know, his life is going to be down to a room, probably maybe with a roommate, with a toilet and a bed. That's all that you get in prison. Um, and then an hour of rec, and then an hour of eating, if even that.
mm.
So, in order to get more time outside your cell, a lot of times people will go and try to get kitchen detail or cleaning detail or something just to like have something else to do and earn like little credits and stuff like that. But it's a pretty lowly existence being in prison. And I think there was an article already that they're putting him in administrative segregation. And what that means is that you don't have a roommate. You're not, when you get rec time, you're not with other people, you're by yourself. Um, that's even if you get rec time. Sometimes it's locked down 23 hours out of the day in a cell. So some jails, they'll allow you to, or prisons, they'll allow you to have like a common area where you can be there during designated times. But when you're in administrative segregation, you're just in your room with a toilet and a bed by yourself with nobody to talk to. And you're basically like in the hole, right? And it could be for different reasons. It could be because of someone misbehaving, but it also could be because of your own safety, because if they put you into the general population, you could get killed or stabbed or assaulted in some way. So that's what it is for him. He's going to have to look out for violence until they, figure out where he needs to be.
Is it nicer at all or no?
No. State prison he's not going to Club Fed. He's going to state prison.
Okay, yeah. And even
It's
while
terrible.
he awaits the other charges, he's in the same prison, everything like that?
Yeah, he'll be in state prison. Once you get convicted of something where you're serving a sentence, that's where you'll go. And if you're still pending charges, your attorney just has to like make contact with you at the prison.
Mm, yikes. So it's definitely gonna be a whole different world for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in jail, right? But jail and prison are different. I mean, jail is still bad. It's still pretty bad. Sometimes jails can be worse because it's not where someone's living long term. Usually it's like less than 18 months or something like that. And it's people that are being held that haven't been convicted yet. But prison, it's got a whole different thing to it. Usually it's further away than the jail is. Usually prisons are not in, neighborhoods or communities. They're usually like far out in rural areas, so it takes a long time for your family to get to you. There's more restrictions on when your family members can visit you, what they can wear, what they can bring in there. You're probably not allowed to have any physical contact with any of your family members. So it's definitely more restrictive. I've never been in a prison that hasn't been, I've been in prisons in New York and Maryland and DC, and they're always far more restrictive than a jail is. I think sometimes when people think of people going to prison, they think of federal prison. No, it's not like that at all.
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah, that's not good. I do have a super chat. It was about Creighton Waters, I think. Apparently, Creighton Waters said this was our Super Bowl. Do you think this is appropriate to the family of the victims and Alex's family?
No. And I like
Yeah.
Judge Creighton. Judge, I like the judge, but no, I don't like. I mean, not the judge. I liked some of what Creighton said. I don't like that. I'm thinking that the judge said that, and that made me sad. But this was not Creighton is not the judge. That's the prosecutor. Yeah, no, that's not appropriate. And I said that even thinking it was the judge who I like so much, but no, it's not appropriate. It's not. It's not your Super Bowl. It's a trial for the murder of two people. You know, no.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think everyone treated it a little bit, I don't know, too insensitively, maybe.
How
They
did it
kind
feel in the
of
courtroom for you with that?
Yeah, well, that's how it felt, and the moment that I'll use to describe it is when Maggie's sister testified, and during the break, she was just there, like, in a corner, literally crying, after just giving her testimony and then
Um,
us taking a break, but she can't stop, so she's still there crying, and the courtroom is just buzzing with chatter and laughter. The defense attorneys are like smiling to each other and laughing, and she's like literally standing. I see her in the corner, and that's that moment. I'm like, oh, there's just a little bit of just to this trial, like everyone's just not really treating it with the delicacy that it should be, That's that moment, and I do
yeah.
feel like, yeah,
Oh, that's so sad. Do
it
you
was
think
really
that
sad.
she
And I
was? Go ahead.
no, no, no. You sorry. Do I think she was what?
Do you think that she was picking up on the vibe in the room, or kind of the frivolity with which everyone was treating it at the time? Did she seem to be reacting to that, or do you think she was just like in herself, feeling her grief?
I think she was in herself feeling her grief, but I
Mhm.
definitely think there was an element to it where she probably felt the coldness of it, and the sterile
Mm,
atmosphere. It wasn't comforting and warm. Although I will say, and then this was only with her as a witness, the judge at multiple times would lean
mhm.
over to her and say, "Do you need a break? Like, do you need to
Oh,
take a break and whatever?" And I thought that was really sweet. But and it says stuff that her family never like, she never came back, her family never came back because I do feel like they probably see everyone as kind of vultures, like, the state prosecutors are just trying to get their job done, the media is just trying to report, like, no one really cares about
mhm.
her and the family, she probably feels like, she probably just wants it
Yeah.
to all be over.
Hmm. That makes me so
Yeah, it was
sad.
sad.
Oh,
I know.
do you think a part of that could be because, like, people's attitude in the courtroom? I know there might be like a cultural thing, like where people are kind of informal, maybe there. They seem to be a bit more informal there than they are where I practice. But do you think, aside from that, that part of it could be that because of the boating incident, where like Paul is not like a very beloved figure and they're kind of like privileged people and maybe not looked upon very sympathetically, that maybe people don't really feel sorry even for the decedents, like the victims in the case? I don't know. Did you get that vibe at all, or no?
Well, I do, to an extent. Of course, there are a lot of people, and even the courtroom, who are very sympathetic to Maggie and Paul, and everyone wants justice for them and things like that. However,
Mhm.
there is an element of people in the community who know them and aren't going. You know what, I hate saying, but, I have to be honest. They don't
Mhm.
they're not going along with the fact that they were all perfect and everything like that, and just because they were victims, they were perfect. I've heard from multiple people that Maggie was far more mean and cruel than Alex was, to people.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
and it's no doubt that the both children are entitled. I'm sure that they were friendly to their friends and, they threw parties and whatever, but
Yeah.
there was definitely an entitled atmosphere to them and the family, but it's hard because before all this happened to Paul, I mean, people hated Paul. They hated
Yeah.
and Maggie really defended him and tried to convince other people that they were driving the boat and Paul wasn't, so they weren't
Hmm.
perfect. I'll just say that,
Yeah.
and the family was I mean, look, you saw how she referred to the
Yeah.
Hispanic people that worked for them. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
someone who talks like that openly,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So did you actually hear that, like, while you were there, like, reporting from the courtroom, like, from real life people that, like, did people talk about it at all, or is it just a feeling that you got?
No, I heard directly from people who said that Maggie was,
Mean.
more mean. Yeah, they said she
Oh,
was not
wow.
nice and yeah, and things like that, and kind of
Yeah.
uppity and stuff like that, so I've heard that,
Mhm.
specifically. And then, of
I
course,
think
there's the
that
rumors
explains a
about
lot.
Paul.
No, go ahead.
Oh,
There's
I'm sorry,
rumors.
what?
No, I think that I was just saying that that explains a whole lot because, you know, hmm, like, say Paul had been a 5-year-old, I think there would have been more like, I don't think there would have been all those jokes being cracked back and forth between the defense and the prosecution. I don't care how, cordial everybody is. I don't think people would have acted like that if Paul was a 5-year-old and Maggie was just just your regular run of the mill stay at home mom, and they were like maybe a more
Mm,
middle class
true.
family. I don't know if I think people would have seen that some of that courtroom behavior is a bit more distasteful if that was the case. Maybe.
Yeah, that's fair too. It could be also that people know this family, they know everything they've gotten away with. They don't really see them necessarily as the most innocent people, so
Mm.
they're not treating it with the same I mean, I hate to say that, and if that's true, I
Mhm.
mean, that wouldn't be the best thing, but maybe it's true. They're just not treating it with the same respect as they would if these were truly, like, again, as you said, like a child and a housewife or something,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah. I
small
mean,
child
it's
or something.
you're just telling us what the people were saying, and I feel like that fills in a lot of gaps for me too. Um that fills in a lot of gaps. That makes things a lot more. It just the way people were acting in the courtroom, milling around and talking back and forth, and on both sides of the aisle people are chuckling and things, and I'm like, dang, there's like two dead people here. It's kind of weird. But there's also the fact that this community has been rocked by a lot of the misdeeds of the Murdaugh family, the alleged and proven and admitted to misdeeds. So it makes a lot more sense when you think of it that way.
Yeah, and seeing this, I mean, really gives you a sense of just all the different components that go into a trial besides for the trial because you have, the media there and they're all doing their job and they don't necessarily care. So
Right.
it's and then the audience who, every break they're all talking, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think?" And it's
Hmm.
easy, just as you say, to lose sight of the fact that, there's victims here who were tragically, killed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Sad, man.
question for you from Christian Griffin. What do you think of the AG only taking the final witness?
Yeah, I don't even know why they did that.
Right?
maybe maybe someone else has some insight to that, but it felt kind of like random, like, like, oh, here's my contribution. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I
Mhm.
had noticed him a lot throughout the trial being very involved, but kind of like a behind the scenes action, but he would be very
Mhm.
involved in the different maneuvering. So then to see him take one of the witnesses, I almost wonder if he didn't have as much confidence as he did at first, or if he felt like he needed to spice things up. I wonder,
I don't know. Yeah, I wonder too. Or maybe just the witness wasn't all that important, and so he felt like, let me take this off the hands of these other two guys that are putting in all this work. So I've seen the elected prosecutor, or the one that's holding the name job, right, handle high profile prosecutions in their office in different ways. So when I used to practice on the Eastern Shore, the first elected prosecutor, I'm not going to say his name, but he was a character. And he would be in court, he'd be in traffic court, he'd be in, regular criminal court, in the district court, which is lower level, he'd be in the circuit court, and he would just take cases, any case. He had his own caseload. That's very, very rare. Then the one that came after him, he was never in court. He was always like, making the higher up decisions of what cases should be prosecuted, and what the policy was going to be for the office, and what they were going to pursue, and things like that. And he went on to become a judge. And then now the county that I'm in, the elected prosecutor here, I don't think I've ever seen her in court. She handles, like I said, the ministerial type of things. And she's, kind of more in the management side of things. So it's interesting because sometimes I'll see these high profile cases. I think the one with Chauvin had Keith Ellis in it, maybe. Not quite sure, but anyway, I think he was the elected AG, and I saw him in the courtroom, but I don't think he ever took a witness. And so even if you see them rustling around the background, I really don't think they're usually doing all that much in the case itself. I think usually they're just, setting policy goals and things like that. They usually don't handle the one-on-one type of case. So it was interesting that he was even in the courtroom, and even more interesting to me that he took a witness. And it just kind of tickled me a bit, because I was like, how much are you really involved in this case? But I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe he's different. Maybe he's more like the first elected prosecutor that I knew that would get really involved in the cases.
One second.
Mhm.
All right, that's better. I did have a chance to speak with him at lunch once, and he said that,
Ooh.
yeah, it was actually a good conversation. I didn't want to bombard him too much with questions, but uh, we were just eating by the food trucks. He said that he didn't originally get involved too much. One, because he has like, I think, what, 800 cases or something he's working
Mhm.
on at once. He
Mhm.
said he did hand select this team, so that he could be involved, but he felt like if he was the face of it, that because of his varying, political interests, that people would
Yeah.
find it too political and the jury might take it against him, if they are, because I think he's an elected Republican, and if they
Yeah.
were, Democrats or whatever, and they didn't like his views or his whatever he's done. I really, honestly, I have no idea anything he's ever said. I don't know his politics at all. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
if there's people that disagree with that, then it could
Mhm.
taint the case, and he said specifically he didn't want that to happen, so I think that's kinda interesting, but then, him showing up at the end, I think just what you said, it kinda shows that he's probably been pretty involved in the case, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that actually gives me a unique or a different perspective on prosecutors getting involved in the cases, because I think the ones that are more political, or maybe run in places where the prosecutor's race is more competitive, yeah, maybe staying out of the courtroom is a good idea, so as not to distract from, the facts of the particular case. So I remember that first prosecutor, elected state's attorney, his races were never highly political. He was, up until a certain point, he was very, very popular. He'd been, reelected over and over again. He ran unopposed a lot of the time. So he would just show up in court, do his thing, have fun. He clearly enjoyed, being a courtroom attorney. But most people, I think they're more on the political side of things. And so maybe being in the courtroom, especially during a jury trial, is not such a good idea. So I could see that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, what do you think about the fact that Harpootlian is a current state senator? I mean, you have a state senator representing someone
Hmm.
against the current AG, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I actually have a bit of a perspective on that. So every state is different. Like, they call their prosecutor their local elected prosecutor, the solicitor, and then for the state, it's the attorney general. And for us, we also have an attorney general, but then we have the state's attorney. That's what we call them, and not the solicitor. And those are elected officials, and they're political and everything like that. So we do have attorneys that are defense attorneys that hold elected positions, right? Or and sometimes they'll be, mostly civil attorneys, but there is one here in my county he's not the elected representative of my county, but he's the elected representative of a neighboring county, and he appears in court in my county. And he has to take time off for elected for to go into the session for the government and things like that. That's a few months out of the year, but for the most part, his main job is being a criminal defense attorney, and I don't think it negatively impacts his ability to do his job. And because the attorney general, the attorney general is definitely unrelated to. Okay, well, my cat is very upset with me, to the state Congress.
Oh,
Yeah, she's mad. Okay, sorry if you hear her, but it's like the local to the state Congress, whatever your state body of legislative government is. It's very much unrelated to the attorney general. One's the legislative branch of government, one's the executive branch of government. It's also unrelated to your county prosecutor, which is your state's attorney, or your solicitor. That's not even state government, that's county government. So I don't see it as being as much of a political thing, because they're not really political rivals. Even if they're of different political parties, they just would never really uh run into real conflict with one another, because they're just doing such different things. And I know someone who does it, and it's just, I know people were talking about it during this trial, maybe because they hadn't heard of it before. But in states where you have statewide legislatures, those things they're not in session all year round. And so the people that do those jobs, they need jobs outside of that. And usually they're lawyers. So it's not that big of a deal. And it's not as political as it may seem from the outside. Okay, Susan.
that's very fair. Yeah, because actually, and I hear your cat, and I think your cat's probably mad because
Yeah.
you did a stream earlier and now you're doing it
Yes.
now.
Now I'm
So
doing it again. She's
I
mad.
know, and then you came on. I do appreciate. I love talking to you. One more
Me too.
question, then maybe we'll both, wrap up if that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
What's the one thing that stands out to you about this whole case now that it's over? Or unless you want to do more or whatever, I just want to give you an opportunity if you do got stuff to do.
Yeah, no, no.
You
One
you
more is
know.
good for me, because Susie is very mad. She's,
Oh, okay. Then yeah,
she
one
is
more for
livid.
Susie, and shout out to Susie. Everyone in the chat, give Susie a nice shout out. I love cats.
Thanks,
Oh,
guys. Thanks for the shout out, Susie. Appreciates it. Um, yeah.
but yeah,
So
what's the one thing that stands
yeah,
out?
the one thing that stands out, really, I hate to sound like a broken record, and I'm sorry too, but just how much this case is such a great example of, you know, if the state's case is circumstantial, don't testify. you know, like if the state's case is this circumstantial, don't testify. I really and truly believe that the state's case was very weak. The motive to me still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You owed a bunch of money, you had financial crimes, and so you murdered your wife and your son, and then you set yourself up to be murdered to benefit your other son. You went through all this trouble to protect Paul and make it seem like he wasn't behind the wheel of the car, only for you to turn around and kill him. I just don't understand it. But just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that once Alex Murdaugh got on the stand and started testifying, I didn't completely change my mind and go, excuse me, change my mind and go, oh, wow, I think he did it, because of all the lies and the way in which he was testifying. So just if you don't need to, don't testify. Don't put your credibility on the line like that if you don't have to. That's the number one lesson that I got out of this. It just recertified that for me.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that's a good takeaway, and that's also, I mean, a common thread we saw too with the Johnny Depp trial. I mean,
Mhm.
Amber went up there and testified, and it really did her in far worse than the evidence did. It was all of the extra lies. So if you're lying and you're not a convincing liar, and there's evidence that they can get you on it, don't get on the stand for sure.
Yeah, really. I mean, well, yeah, I think Amber was a good example of not being a convincing liar. I'll give Alec Murdaugh this credit from the TV screen, from my computer anyway. His emotions seem very genuine. I still really do believe that he loved his wife and son, and that's why I have such an emotional and mental conflict over this case. I don't understand how this could happen, with a
Mm,
family that I feel like they loved each other to the detriment of everyone else. Like they were more important to each other than being good people. They would protect each other and hurt other people in order to protect each other. And so, with someone like that, why would you kill the ones that you would hurt other people for? I don't understand it. But I think even though I don't understand it, I think that's still exactly what happened. And so, Amber was not a good liar, and I didn't believe her tears, but I believed Alec Murdaugh's tears. I did, but I didn't believe that he was lying about the kennels video because he was paranoid from doing drugs. That doesn't make any sense to me.
no, I agree, and you're right, I do agree that I think he loved his family. Whatever weird, dark, twisted thing he got into, I do believe he loved them, you know? So, it just
Mhm.
and he said, "I would never do anything to hurt them." He never said, "I would never kill them." It's almost
Mhm.
like he's compartmentalized what he did in such a way that he's justified it to himself, maybe, I don't
I
know.
did think
Maybe he
that was an
thinks that
interesting choice of words. I did. I agree with you.
Yeah,
It's a
right?
strange choice of words. Like, what does he mean by that? Yeah, I'm with you on that, James.
It's like he's saying like, "Oh, well, by killing them, I avoid" like, I'm thinking it like, maybe he's thinking, "Well, I did this, so now they don't have to be hurt. They're not going through the shame.
Yeah,
Paul's not gonna go to jail or Maggie's not gonna have to deal with the emotion of that." Like, maybe in his mind, he thinks that doing that saved them from I don't know, it's
I
crazy
don't
why people do
know.
stuff like that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't understand. But you know what? But when you really go back to the baseline of everything with him, I don't understand why he did a lot of the things he did. He was already wealthy, but he just kept ripping people off. He could have stopped at some point, and maybe nobody would have ever found
Exactly,
out.
exactly.
I don't get it. It set himself up to be shot in the head. Why? Why would you do this? It's not gonna work, man. So and then to leave Buster alive. Like, why did he choose Buster to live and Paul and Maggie to die? That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm so confused by the whole thing, but you know, he still
Yeah,
chose to
that is weird.
testify, and that was a bad idea.
Agreed. Well, I think that's something that everyone can agree on. I know there's a lot of divisive kind of back and forth about how people feel about the trial, but I definitely think
Mhm.
that is something everyone agrees on.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, James. I'm gonna head up out of here. You guys are awesome.
Absolutely.
I love your audience that you have here. They're so active in the chat. All right. You guys have a good
Yes,
night.
and thank you for coming on. It was good talking to you. Everyone go check out Natalie. Again, I'm pretty sure everyone already does because everyone loves you in the chat. But if you haven't, check her out, and hopefully we can talk really soon again.
Yep. This was great. All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Good night, Natalie.
Good night. Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, that was Natalie, the lawyer chick, one of our friends from LawTube. I hope I didn't keep her up too late. She did a very long stream earlier where she talked. I was supposed to go on with her, but there was a little bit of a technical difficulty. I didn't get the right link, but I'm glad we could still have a conversation because I always value and appreciate her point of view as a defense attorney and also just as a really cool and smart person to talk to. I hope her and Susie have a good night. I need to get a pet soon. Hempland, Texas, thank you very much for the generous super chat, which will go towards my camera and lighting setup so y'all can see me. For your your chat has found the whole Murdaugh family guilty of everything. Let's just put them all in jail without trials, as they are all sure they are guilty from documentaries, articles, and mainstream media. I hope none of the chat end up in South Carolina on trial. I get where you're coming from, Hempland, Texas. I think a lot of people do see things in the media and they are quick to judge and convict people. However, I think that there's a lot of I mean, the evidence was enough for the jury, so I don't know if they wanna convict. I don't think people are ready to throw Buster away or different things like that. However, when there is a reputation and there are rumors and there are reports of things, I don't think it's all fake news. I think some of this is real, and remember, the mainstream media actually has a lot of interest in covering up Murdaugh's crimes, and they have for a long time, or not even their crimes, but maybe the family's indiscretions. I don't know if everyone finds them guilty of everything. Also, I've seen this before by a friend of mine, another member of the LawTube community, Blanca from Law of Self-Defense, about, if anyone I hope no one ever finds themselves in this situation or something, and I don't think it's gonna be easy for all of us to end up on trial for double homicide. I think, yeah, if, we could all one of us could end up on trial for parking tickets or doing this wrong or that, but to find yourself in circumstantial investigation for double homicide, I mean, and you can't get out of it because you don't have an alibi and you lie to the police about where you are. I mean, it's kind of a lot of moving parts. I don't think all of us are gonna be in the same situation, but Ant Antoinette, thank you for the super chat very much. Thank you, thank you. And thank you all for being so nice to Natalie. Uh, no matter who I have on as a guest, I don't endorse what they say outside of my channel wholeheartedly. I don't know Natalie's tweets or opinions, just like I don't know everything DUI guy says or anyone else, but when they are nice to me and can have a good, respectful conversation, I always appreciate that. And I always appreciate you all being respectful as well and welcoming that person. We can all have disagreements, of course, about things without fighting. But I always appreciate any opinion. I appreciate your opinion, Hempland, Texas, the last super chat. I appreciate all sorts of opinions. Thank you, Jennifer. Natalie is fantastic. At least in my conversations with her, I know she is. I think we have a good back and forth. But again, I don't know everyone. I don't know what they do outside. I'm sure there's things her and I disagree with about as well. But AES, personally, I didn't watch any outside coverage or Netflix, just the evidence in the trial. I mean, personally, I didn't either. So if anyone thinks I'm saying anything because of something I've seen in Netflix or HBO or online, I have not. I really have not seen anything from the Murdaugh trial before I got to South Carolina, besides just for a couple news articles. One, when the tragic events happened, but also when he was disbarred, I heard about. And then, of course, the roadside roadside shooting, but other than that, I never watched a podcast or any sort of docudrama or not docudrama, docuseries or documentary about them. So, I don't come into this having any biases or opinions beyond what I've seen in court for my own eyes. And I certainly am not one to prejudge or find someone guilty without getting a good read on the situation for myself. A cute little mint, same went in nothing knowing, purely based off evidence, not guilty. just not enough evidence. Yeah, absolutely. And that is, listen, that is a totally valid opinion to have. I don't judge anyone for having any opinion. I don't blame anyone. I have my own, but I don't blame anyone else. And I think yours is very valid that you don't think that there's enough evidence. I personally do. I think there was enough circumstantial evidence. And I think that Alex testifying and then him purposely saying, I didn't do this. But if you don't find him to be a believable, credible witness, you have a right to find that statement to be a lie, logically, if you think about it. So, Mimsy, thank you very much for the super sticker. Very, very much. I appreciate that. But listen, y'all, it is 3 hours and 11 minutes. Let's maybe do this for a little bit longer. Maybe we can have a fun for the last 5 minutes, just ask any questions, answer things, shoot the breeze, whatever, and then I'll do like I always do and give y'all some time in the chat to say goodbye, but let's talk for a few minutes, just free talk. Lucy Bauer says, "I like James' streams because it's easy to express opinions and not be attacked. Some, but nothing like the other streams." Okay, well, that's really cool. I appreciate that, Lucy. I appreciate that I can offer something that not necessarily everyone offers. Just know you're not going to be attacked by me. I hope that my chat does the same. Even. Oops, sorry. Oops, sorry. I don't know why my mic is being so. All right. All right. Sorry again. My mic is being very sensitive. I have a decent mic. All right. How about this? All right. Now, much better, right? Something's going on with the cords. I don't know. I lost a bunch of people. Sorry. Yeah, my mic said 3 hours, all you get, right? It's a pretty good mic too. Maybe I just need the cords. Listen, I've been like kind of throwing my mic around, and I had it in my car and every day in trial, and I'd bring it just so I could stream in my car. So maybe it's something with the cord. Yeah, I'm definitely not a boomer. It's not me, y'all. It's this equipment I have. So, by the way, if this is a good time to remind y'all that super chats go towards getting me new equipment or anything like that. So, sorry about that. But yeah, I was just going to say we could talk for a few more minutes while we finish up here, and then I'll give you all free chat time. But thank you, Hempland, Texas, and thank you as well, D Fox, for the super stickers. Basically, what I was just saying is that I appreciate everyone's opinions. I'm not going to be the one to bash anyone for opinion, even if your opinion is super cringe. Now, if you come to me and say that Amber Heard was telling the truth and that all of us that covered the Johnny Depp trial were liars, I will come at you. But otherwise, we're all good. Mary Z, what's your opinion on Walterboro outside the trial? I love Walterboro. Walterboro. It is a nice little town that feels very southern. It's just they've got the what are they called? Willow trees or the trees with the swamp moss on them. It's a cool place to be. Not a lot in the town, few restaurants, cafes, not a lot of hotels or different things, but it's nice. Kathy, question. I'm late to the chat, so you may have already answered this. Have you heard if it was new Moselle owners that staged this? It was disturbing. Well, Kathy, thank you for the super chat. No need, or it's okay to be late. But I don't know if the new owners staged it. I think it's still under the owner of the ownership of the original owners, but I don't know, or maybe it's in closing. But it was disturbing, and I don't know who staged it, but I do believe it was staged. Ela giving me good advice about packaging the cords. Thank you. Mags Designs wants me to give my Cash App if anyone wants to throw that in the chat. They can. I think Lori just posted it. Thank you. Not necessary, of course, but if you want to help out with that, doing 30% to YouTube. Question from J123, something fun. What was the best food trucks during trial? Both the barbecue trucks, I'll say. So there was two barbecue trucks. Both of them were pretty good. One of them had a great potato salad and a great brisket chili and a pretty good pulled pork sandwich. The other one had great mac and cheese and also very good pulled pork. And I liked both of those trucks. Now, I did try a truck with a mozzarella caprese. It was like a caprese salad or a caprese sandwich with pesto on it. Not my favorite at all. Not my favorite. And no shade. The guy was so nice. I feel really bad, but not not the kind of caprese sub I'm used to from New York area. Question from Ela X. Oh, basically the same question. Did I end up finding good food? Yeah, the food trucks with the barbecue were absolutely delicious, and I also ate out in Charleston a couple times, and a lot of ate out in Savannah a couple times as well. Question from Jenny: what part of Florida do I live in without giving personal information? South Florida. That's sort of as specific as I want to be, if that's okay. BC Can wants to know the best food I ate in South Carolina. Probably this other barbecue place that I went to when I was driving from Walterboro to Charleston. It was quite good. I forgot everything I got there, but it was good. Or, well, this isn't South Carolina. It was in Savannah, but it was really good. I got crab soup and risotto. That was really good. But I also had a really good burger as well in Charleston area. So yeah. Olga wants to know the vibes today in Walterboro a day after sentencing. I'm not in actually Walterboro right now. I'm in Bluffton, but I should maybe drive there and see. I bet it is very quiet. I'm sure everyone left. Everyone mostly left yesterday or last night. Question: what is my favorite foods in general? I love Japanese food, anything, sushi, but I also love yakitori. I love robotaki, which is basically the same. I love Japanese barbecue. I love Thai food. I love any sort of Latin food, Spanish food, or actual just Latin American, like tacos and things. I'm Italian, so I love Italian food, but that is just a staple of my life. So, is food the right answer to this question? What are my favorite foods in general? I would just say food. But I will say my favorite thing ever is brujol. If you know brujol, it is an Italian dish, and brujol, with marinara gravy and pasta would probably be my favorite dish, and meatballs. Scooter, my bad, man. Get yourself a snack. I'm making everyone hungry, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. I'm actually hungry kinda thinking about it. Yeah, delicious, right? Delicious food. South Florida has some great Cuban food. I have gotten a whole bunch of Cuban food in South Florida, and I do love it. South Florida also has some great Venezuelan, some great Brazilian. Yeah, it's time for everyone to eat, right? I think all of us are getting a little hungry and probably a little tired. It's 9:35. It's 3 hours and 21 minutes. I think this is the longest stream I've ever done. I appreciate you all being here. Hello, replay crew, if there's anyone that's bothering to watch this, listen to this a day after or after I stream this, because 3 hours and 20 minutes of me talking, I don't know how y'all do it, but I appreciate you all because hopefully I'm giving some information that you're interested in. We will go through more things tomorrow or the next day, like my theories about what actually happened with Alex and all of the different media personalities, who was nice, who wasn't nice, who was clicky, who wasn't clicky. I've seen your questions in the chat. I know we didn't get to all of them, which is why we just got to keep talking and doing this again. But I want to answer another question I see here, Crystal. I bet you never thought you'd hear this. Thanks for keeping me company while I spent the whole time making pasta salad. OCD is not good to have when doing this. Thanks, James. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that I could accompany you while you were making something delicious for yourself. It's actually cool that you say that because I'm someone myself who will throw on YouTube and listen to people while I cook or do different things. So the fact that I'm now one of those people that you are listening to is really cool and humbling and flattering. So thank you. That's cool. Yeah, don't forget to hit the like button if you don't mind. Also, by the way, if you're one of my followers or subscribers listening to this right now, and you are from the Johnny Depp trial and a Depp fan, and you've missed me talking about Depp and stuff, and I've been so focused on the Murdaugh trial, just know I have not forgotten about you. We will continue with streams about Depp, revisiting the Depp trial, going through old things. I still got my notebook, which, by the way, does anyone want this notebook from the Murdaugh trial? Do y'all think I should auction it off and maybe give a portion of the proceeds to Gloria's? Oh, not Gloria. I'm sorry. Miss Shelley's GoFundMe. Would that be an idea if anyone was interested in? That could help me grift my way a little bit into helping pay for the money I lost during the trial. If anyone wants to auction this notebook, I've got all the details about everything that happened, every moment, when this person yawned, what this media person did, what Nancy Grace was doing, who was whispering in the back, all that kind of stuff. So maybe if you don't approve, I see you don't approve of Shelly's GoFundMe. I mean, after the fact, I get if you don't approve of the donation to it during the trial, but or maybe just another charity. I don't know if there's another charity, a dog charity, local, maybe a wild hog sanctuary or something. So I'll do maybe like 10% to charity or something like that. Okay, so no to, not to Miss Shelley. Well, we'll think about somewhere that I can donate the money. Again, maybe an animal shelter, a pet shelter nearby. To Bubba. Yeah, we're just well, yes, my fun too, but portion of it I want to do charity. But yeah, I'll think about that. If anyone wants to give suggestions, I'll start doing that in the next few days. Yeah, Hamilton mentioned that DUI guy Larry donated his proceeds to animal charity, to Children's Hospital, which he did. We did a live streamathon where we raised a bunch of money, and Larry was so generous to donate his notebooks and things like that for auction to charity. So, yeah, we'll all think of a good charity to pick, and I'll do that. And maybe I don't know if I want to auction my media pes press pass. Say that 5 times in a row. Although I kind of want to keep that as a souvenir, but maybe I'll auction that off or some other things involved in the trial. But yeah, y'all, I appreciate it. 3 hours and 26 minutes. I will also, of course, save all the copies of my notes for maybe a book. I'll write a book about all the trials of the decade that I went to, or the trials of the century, or just how trials are changing in the new age of media and social media and viral sensations. I think that would be interesting eventually to write a book about. But yeah, y'all. So for the 472 of you still here, hello, hello. Thank you. We've got 3 minutes left of the stream, I think. So how about this? I'll let you all chat, say goodbye, talk to each other, get it, whatever comments or questions, concerns you have about the day out. I appreciate Corey Simon coming from DY Guy. Unfortunately, I'm not like DY Guy and I can't do 12-hour streams, so I'm cutting this off now. I do apologize, but I appreciate you coming over from Larry's stream. I appreciate you all. Oh, shoot, thanks. I just see the super chat from Good Logic. Thank you, Joe. Just want to commend you on your phenomenal work throughout the trial and thank you for contributing to my show. Well, Joe is such a nice guy, and I mean, you're very welcome. I'm always happy to come on your show whenever I go to any trial and talk. You opened up your channel during the Johnny Depp trial, and I know that I offered, my observations of the court, which was interesting to people at the time, but you were always very nice and gave me good advice on how to promote myself, and you always made sure to mention my Cash App and PayPal at the time because I was not monetized and I had no way of monetizing the information that I had, and because of that, I was able to support myself during the Johnny Depp trial. So thank you, Joe from Good Logic, for believing in me as a very young, very new. I mean, it was like a week into covering trials. So yeah, thank you very much. And it meant a lot. And I'm always, whenever you want to talk, if you just want to do a stream or you want to come on here, 100%, I can send you the links whenever I go on. I always think I'm like, well, who wants to come on to my stream? Because I'm just talking about random stuff and whatever. But anyone's always invited all the time. I mean, that goes without saying, but I'll go out of my way now to as well send links to everyone. I also feel kind of weird sometimes just spamming out links like, oh yeah, just come on my stream. Like everyone just wants to be on my stream and assuming that. But I think it's also about just being friendly and stuff. So I don't want people to think that I'm not sending it out because you know what I mean. So, but now I'm just rambling. So again, another, gosh, few minutes. I feel bad cutting this off. I don't know if you just got here, Joe, but thank you very much for that. And thank you for being here. And hopefully we can do another stream together soon. Yeah, Natalie was here too. Nancy Joe, James, your Twitter post told me the verdict was back. Hey, that's what's up. Yeah, I'm glad that I could have notified you about that. Yeah, Joe, that's exactly how I feel about mass invites. I always feel weird. I wish there was like a folder that we could all create that we could just put our you know what, Joe? Maybe someone should do that. Maybe I could make it or someone could do it like a Google sheet and we could do like a calendar and just have our streams and send it out to the 6 of us or, 5 of us that are streaming now. I mean, I don't consider myself part of this group yet, but now I'm starting to stream more. So the people that do stream, send out the link and just be like, we're all whoever wants to come on and we're all free, come on these times and people can say, "Oh yeah, this is, what when I want other people to come on or I just going to do a solo stream at this point because I really do love talking to you and everyone else, of course. But I don't want to like bother y'all with like sending you links. And then, Joe, you're sitting there at 7 and you're like, I'm streaming at 10 all night. But, now James wants me to go on or whatever. But we'll figure it out. Corey Simon, thank you. Spank that like. We have to agree with the jury. Well, we don't have to agree with the jury, but we do have to spank that like. Oh, thanks. Good night, Joe. Heck yeah, we will work together soon for sure. Maybe at the Marco trial. You should come to that, Joe. Definitely. If Nate's testifying, we should be there. Yeah, everyone, please go check out Nate's channel and his Twitter. He is Good Logic. Joe, I thought you were not Good Logic anymore. I thought you were the following program now. Uh-oh. Is that just what you are on Twitter? Well, Good Logic on YouTube. Regardless, Joe has got some good content. Loretta wants to know what happened between Mandy and Fitz news. Oh, Loretta, that is a conversation for another time. I'm not trying to get involved in that right now. It's too tired, and I'll say something that'll get me in trouble. Y'all don't want. I can't. It's too late. Team Nate all the way. Team Nate versus Team Boozy. We know who's gonna win. Yep, we know who's gonna win. Okay, yes. YouTube, Good Logic, Twitter, the following program. Yes. Well, either way, it's got good content, whatever the name is. Go check Joe out. No, Loretta, I'm just joking. I did see the drama in the chat and I will discuss it, just not when I'm so tired because I will say something wrong and I don't want to do that and I don't want to be taken out of context because I have lots of thoughts. Lots and lots and lots of thoughts. Lots of thoughts. And I will post my interview with Fitz News. It was on Twitter, but let me post it on YouTube. And maybe I will share it all in the next stream I do so y'all can see it. I actually have not watched it yet. I was super embarrassed because I hate watching and seeing myself and because of apparently my hot mic mint moment where I was talking about the mint I was chewing. So I'll watch it though. And we can all watch it together. And then maybe you all be my emotional support audience. So watching it with you all won't be so horrifying. Nancy Joe wants to know if I have a color for my hearts and a name for my members. So I think the color that was decided was yellow. Is it yellow purple? I mean, yellow purple. I can't speak. I need to go to bed. Yellow heart. And I actually really like the yellow heart because I think it connects to. I'm pretty sure, Lori, you started this, right? The James has a heart of gold thing, which I think is really sweet of you all. And I kind of like that. Like the lion courageous like a heart of gold. So I kind of like the yellow heart for a heart of gold. I kind of like that. I'm not going to lie. I think that's kind of dope. Name for my members? I don't know. Y'all have to decide. Something, what is it? Was it James's Jurors or the Jury Watchers? the juror watchers or the rural jurors. And I pinned here. I'm gonna go back to you because I pinned this because I loved this so much from alleged defendant, the rural juror. If you are a 30 Rock fan, the rural juror was one of the funniest running gags on the show. So maybe that's what we can call ourselves, the rural jurors. The rural jurors. James's, how about this? James's rural jurors. No, it's not gonna be that, but it's gonna be something. Think of a good name for y'all that you want to do. The court watchers or something, courtiers, I don't know. We'll think of something. And hopefully by then I'll have a camera. So we'll have all this, my community will be set up. I'll have the members page. I'll post the fun. So y'all have fun, funny pictures with Shanley. We have the cool photo that I put up that's just us standing, like whatever, and then we do like a back to back, like we're James Bond. It's fun. So I have I think some good members only content that I will be happy to share. And yeah, we'll do that. And look at me, I already went 6 minutes over what I said I was going to. We're at 3:36. This is the longest stream I've done so far, and I appreciate those of you that are still here. But it's almost 10 o'clock, and y'all need to go to bed. I need to go to bed. I do need to still eat dinner. So, as much as I enjoy hanging out with y'all, I probably should go and let you all say goodbye in the chat, decide what my name is going to be, whether you all of my followers, I think law, I mean, y'all are law nerds. I'm a law nerd. I'm fine with just being law nerds, because we're all fans. Or maybe I'm assuming that you're all fans of EDB, but maybe, I'm not gonna say anything bad, but I'm just saying not everyone has my same opinion, but I do maybe law friends or just court friends, friends of the court, maybe that. How about that, friends of the court? I kind of like that name. And yes, court fam's another good one. If you haven't yet liked this, please, because I would love to have like around 1,000 likes by the time I shut off the stream. So there's 450 of you left. I imagine probably a lot of you have already liked this if you're still here listening to me. But if you don't mind just smashing that like button and the subscribe. I see some good ones. So we got James's Jurors, the Gallery, Rural Jurors, Friends of the Court, Court Fam, the Gallery. We'll think about it. The courtiers. I'll do a poll, an official poll, not an unofficial poll, and we'll figure it out. And I do want to get merch that says "Bring the Jury." I love it. So yeah, I mean, I could just say law nerds. However, Lucy, law nerds is technically a term coined by Emily. I know it kind of describes like everyone who's in the law tube community, but I don't want to start. I don't want to say like, oh, this is a name for my community or my followers or whatever. Like, if y'all want to be called law nerds because you feel like you're in the law nerds, heck yeah, I'm a law nerd. So I'm fine with us all just calling each other law nerds. But if we're gonna make something separate, I definitely don't want to use law nerds because that's very much like Emily's thing. So I guess we're like a subset in the larger group. You know how like Presbyterians are Christian, but not all Christians are Presbyterians. Kind of like that. If you're Christian, otherwise, if you're like if you're Jewish and if you're Reformed, not all, Jews are Reformed, but not all, like that kind of thing. So I know Law Nerd's Emily thing, but I think we're definitely overlapping here. I myself am 100% a Law Nerd, and I would probably guess that many of you are as well. So it could be Law Friends or something else, but yeah, we'll think. No rush. We'll figure it out. Scooter, you are hilarious. No, we're not gonna go with this. All right, y'all. I've said now 3 times I'm gonna go, and I'm actually gonna hold myself to it this time and let you all hold. Oh shoot! You know what? I never showed Natalie. I wanted to show Natalie our friend Rob Stark and see what she thought, if she really thought he looked like Rob, which she does, but I didn't show her. That's okay. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Get some rest, drink some water. Probably see y'all tomorrow. Hopefully, not as last minute as tonight, but I appreciate y'all. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your support. And with that, I bid you farewell and peace out. Good night.